Are moving ahead, and now we are in week number 10 out of 200 where we are elected for, and we are doing that step by step moving forward. Yes.
Thank you for listening to the interview from the BBC World Service. You'll find more in-depth conversations on the interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including episodes with US President Donald Trump, tennis great Martina Navratilova, and British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. Until the next time, goodbye for now.
From the BBC, that was the interview. I'm Saroja Coelho. CBC News is next.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and this is Information Radio, live on CBC from downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube, where I'm broadcasting now. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you and nice to be back. Big thanks to Faith Fundell for filling in for me for the last couple of weeks, and yesterday Chloe Friesen was here. And good morning to the team. Holding down the fort, Sierra Sanders, our director, who's been here throughout the summer, and you hear on the airwaves with the morning commute. Mr. Abby Adiyemi, good morning to you. Nice to see you. Abby's behind the controls of the show always and on the air with weather. And the producer of our YouTube stream is Brad Lillies, saying hello to you this morning. At 3 minutes to 6 o'clock, wow, is it ever muggy? And we are going to get rain in southern Manitoba at least. Rain has already started over in Brandon. It's coming to Winnipeg, 10 to 15 millimeters rather expected. And then we also are going to have some challenges with local smoke. And unfortunately up north where we need more rain, it's not going to be as heavy as it is here in southern Manitoba today. Let's get into what's happening in the headlines this morning. So Lauren Donnelly is in our newsroom, and she has that at 2 minutes to 6.
Good morning. About 13,000 Manitobans are currently displaced by wildfires, including the more than 300 residents of Leaf Rapids. And with fires just 4 kilometers from the community at the last update, people are anxiously waiting to see what happens. And Winnipeg is investing in a new measure to slow speeding drivers. We'll have more on those stories after World Report.
All right. Thanks, Lauren. Smoke warning, by the way. I mentioned the smoke in some areas of Manitoba, but there actually is a warning that's been issued that affects northern Manitoba today. So we're going to be talking about the long-term effects of smoke. We haven't had a wildfire year like this. Well, last year was historic across Canada. We've seen historic things happening in Manitoba this year. What is the impact on our health? We've talked about the short-term impact of smoke, but what about the long-term impact? So stay tuned. We'll have that discussion this morning. Also today, Selfies with a Cause. We're going to talk to a Winnipeg organization about their latest competition and how they're hoping it's going to boost city pride. And you might have seen the bison all along Roblin and Grant and Corden, outside of the zoo. And it all has to do with those bison. So stay tuned. We'll tell you all about what we're talking about there. Well, speaking of the park, Assiniboine Park's Lyric Theatre is lacing up its dancing shoes once again. The annual Ballet in the Park is coming up. We'll get some summer details on that for you. And then to some serious issues, the debate about whether or not 16-year-olds should vote continues, and we'll talk about it.
On cue. Hey, I'm Ali Hassan in for Tom Power. Country music superstar Blake Shelton is back with a brand new album, his first in 4 years. He'll be here to tell you about falling out of love with making music and fighting burnout after spending 23 seasons as a coach on The Voice. Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Canada's premiers are trying to protect their economies from U.S. tariffs and find ways to make Canada less reliant on trade with our neighbours to the south. They will discuss their latest plans with Prime Minister Mark Carney at a meeting today in Ontario's cottage country. But their frustration with Washington is palpable, especially after the U.S. ambassador to Canada made some comments about Canadian boycotts. The CBC's Janice McGregor is in Washington with details. And Janice, what did the ambassador say that's got people so upset?
Donald Trump's top diplomat in Canada, Pete Hoekstra, was speaking at the annual summit for business and political leaders from the Pacific Northwest Economic Region. And he said that if Canadians are staying home, That's their business. He doesn't like it, but if that's what they want to do, it's fine. He said if they want to ban American alcohol, that's fine. But what he said next suggests that maybe it's really not all that fine with him. Hoekstra said actions like these consumer boycotts are the reason that President Donald Trump and some of his team have referred to Canada as being mean and nasty to deal with. BC Premier David Eby's government is a partner at this summit, and he didn't think much of that.
Do they think that Canadians are not going to respond when the president says, I want to turn you into the 51st state and beggar you economically unless you bow to the U.S.? Like, obviously, Canadians are outraged. I say Canadians stick with it.
Some U.S. Democratic senators were in Ottawa yesterday. They struck a very different tone, right?
Indeed. They weren't calling people names. They were wearing friendship bracelets that the embassy made, and they want Canadians to come back. Listen to New Hampshire Senator Maggie Hassan.
We know that the instability in our relationship right now has meant that some Canadians have decided to stay away from their favorite American tourist spots, and we hope you will come back. And it's not just that we miss your business, we miss your friendship.
Individual Canadians may wonder whether the choices they're making this summer make a difference, but collectively, this dip in tourism spending, the different drinks in Canadian glasses this summer, does seem to be hurting the U.S. economy. And that turns up the heat on politicians to sort out this trade war before more businesses get hurt.
All right. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
CBC's Janice McGregor reporting from Washington. The World Health Organization is accusing Israeli forces of attacking its facilities in Gaza. It says multiple airstrikes hit a warehouse and a staff residence. Israel's military has not commented, but the UN agency says the ground offensive in central Gaza is compromising desperately needed humanitarian support. Sasha Petrusik is in Jerusalem with the latest.
Her face is gaunt, her arms shriveled. One hungry baby in a Gaza City hospital full of malnourished children. This is famine, says the mother of a boy being fed through IV tubes. There's no milk, no food. I cannot meet my child's needs. The shortage is real but preventable, says the World Food Program. 90% of its aid trucks are being kept out of Gaza by the Israeli military, says Director Ross Smith.
The hunger crisis in Gaza has certainly reached new and astonishing levels of desperation.
Israel maintains it is allowing enough aid in. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres criticized the death of at least 85 Palestinians killed trying to get to a UN aid convoy on Sunday.
We saw yet more mass shootings and killings of people seeking UN aid for their families. An atrocious and inhumane act which I utterly condemn.
And conditions for delivering help are getting worse, say NGOs, especially since Israel launched a new ground offensive in Deir al-Balah yesterday. Mohammed Fadlallah is with Doctors Without Borders.
The people are getting squeezed and squeezed further and further into a much smaller area. Where are they going to be? They're going to have to be living on top of each other.
Aid agencies say they, too, are being squeezed out of the last humanitarian hub left in Gaza. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Officials in Bangladesh say a technical malfunction caused a training jet to crash into a school early yesterday. The aircraft was being used by the Bangladesh military. It says the pilot ran into difficulty shortly after takeoff. At least 31 people were killed. 170 others, mostly students, were injured. Saidur Rahman is the special assistant to the chief advisor on health.
Even among those in the high dependency unit, the conditions of some patients are critical. So we are going through a very difficult time as a nation. We ask everyone to keep us in their prayers.
The military says the pilot was on a routine training mission when the crash happened. Today is a national day of mourning in Bangladesh. The man accused of hijacking a plane at Vancouver International Airport and triggering a security scare last week is now facing a second charge. Shahir Qasim is now charged with damaging or interfering with a navigation system. That is in addition to the hijacking charge. Both charges carry a maximum sentence of life in prison. Qasim was arrested last Tuesday. Jasper, Alberta is marking 1 year since a wildfire tore through the town. A third of the structures were destroyed. Thousands of people were forced out of the mountain community. A year later, the municipality and Parks Canada are highlighting what they're doing to protect the national park. Julia Wong has more from Jasper.
Could we add more resources? And short answer is I don't think it would have made much of a difference.
Jasper Fire Chief Matthew Conti believes crews did everything they could to protect the town during last year's destructive wildfire. About 1/3 of the buildings in Jasper burned down. Nearly 1 year later, Conti says residents seem to be taking fire prevention more seriously. He says about 30 home assessments have been done in the last 2 months.
People want to comply. They want to know what they need to do.
Out in Jasper's backyard,
This is really actually very intensive work.
Parks Canada is working to reduce the wildfire risk around the community. Dave Argument is a resource conservation manager.
The heavy equipment will come in and actually selectively remove the trees that we've asked them to target. And then we leave behind a lot of the coarse woody debris on the landscape as well, which helps with moisture retention.
But Argument warns there is no magic bullet to keeping the community safe.
We can cut all the trees we want here, and we still won't entirely ensure the safety of town. Fire smarting and community protection is a whole bunch of layers of steps that have to be taken.
Steps residents of this town won't be taking for granted as they try and move forward from last year's devastation. Julia Wong, CBC News, Jasper, Alberta.
RCMP in eastern Alberta are warning the public to be careful about what they say online about the federal by-election. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is running for a seat in the House of Commons. More than 100 candidates have registered to run against him. And RCMP say several candidates have reported potentially threatening comments on social media. The Mounties are reminding the public threats to cause bodily harm or property damage are a criminal offense. Beekeepers in New Brunswick say they're facing a challenge. Their honeybee populations are dwindling. The province's Beekeepers Association estimates about 50% of the population was lost over the winter. And as Hope Edmund reports, the loss of the hives is also affecting provincial food production.
Nathan Much carefully opens his hives. Beekeeping in the northern New Brunswick city of Miramichi is his livelihood. He's still trying to recover from the winter, when only one of his 60 hives survived.
It was incredibly depressing because we love our bees just like they're our pets.
Much rents his bees to blueberry producers for pollination. He says the loss has cost him $50,000.
Sort of a double-edged sword because you're losing out on the pollination money, plus you're having to put all this money back into buying bees.
It's not just happening in New Brunswick. Statistics Canada data from 2024 found that honey production dropped across the country by 18%. Experts cite different reasons.
We're still missing thousands and thousands of hives to be able to pollinate everything.
Pascal Michaud assesses hive and honeybee health in the province. She says varroa mites are killing bees.
If we keep losing 30 to 50% of our hives each year, it's a big stressor on the beekeepers, of course, but really on everyone because it's directly tied to food securities.
Kashal Rathanaik is a pollination biologist at the University of New Brunswick. He says climate change has caused a global decline in bee populations.
They cannot withstand our long winters or the high temperature.
Much is calling for more funding to help beekeepers recover from large losses. Hope Edmund, CBC News, Fredericton.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app and YouTube. Nice to see you. Nice to be back. Coming back to rain, a lot of humidity. It's really sticky out there this morning and a smoke warning in the north. So we'll run through your Tuesday weather shortly here with Abby Adiyemi. If you're a regular listener, then you know that's coming up. Also coming up this hour, Assiniboine Park, the Lyric Theatre. They're lacing up their dancing shoes for their annual event, Ballet in the Park. It's back. We're going to be talking to the new artistic director to learn more about the promise of the stage this year for a lot of new promising artists, rather. Also, this hour on the program, the debate whether or not 16-year-olds should get to vote is heating up, with some saying they should be heard in politics. We're We're going to talk more about that. You might recall that there was a court challenge here in 2021 by a group of youth advocates in Canada to have the age of voting lowered. That's still making its way through the courts. So we're going to look at what the UK is doing as they have lowered their voting age, and we'll have a discussion about whether or not we should or could see that here. Love it if you'd weigh in. So that's in the first half hour here. Right now, let's go to Lauren Donnelly with our news headlines otherwise. Good morning.
Good morning. The water plant in Tatasquiat Cree Nation has been repaired. Residents have been out of their community for nearly 2 months due to wildfires. But this fix means they are one step closer to returning home. We'll hear from some of them. And some parents in Winnipeg are cautiously watching weather conditions as smoke continues to roll into the city from nearby wildfires. That's all coming up in your next local news at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
Abby Adiyemi, how are you?
Good morning, Ricey. Doing good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I think everybody on the team except me is going to have really huge hair today.
Yeah.
Because all you guys have curly hair. My hair just goes flat in this humidity and gets really like gross and stringy and
yeah,
stuff.
still humid and muggy. That's what you're coming back to, Marcy.
Last night, though, nothing really developed in my neighborhood. I thought it was going to really, it rained really hard around maybe 5.
I was actually tracking the weather last night. You know, when those alerts were coming in on the phones, I don't know if you got any of those. The tornado warnings came in because I'm like closer to the southern part of the province, and I got that tornado and I was checking out for weather in surrounding areas. Albany and surrounding region all the way down to, I think, Niverville, we're having that warning, and it was really, really dark and cloudy, and some parts of that region really got rain yesterday.
You know, we checked around the province this morning because those alerts were going off on different phones across Manitoba, and including here in Winnipeg. I actually didn't get any on my phone.
Some people didn't get it in the city, yeah.
But yes, in the south end, we checked this morning. Now, we have not yet heard of any issues, problems, certainly no touchdown issues. But if you saw anything last night or anything developed in your corner of Manitoba, please let us know. Today, though, the rain's coming again.
Yeah, the rain's coming, but the issue is still in the northern parts of the province. We still have that air quality warning in effect across all of northern Manitoba this morning. I'm talking about from all the way from the Power, Flin Flon, tracking it into Norway House, Thompson, Gillam, Lynn Lake, Churchill. We're seeing smoke in that area, and this will be causing poor air quality and low visibility. We're talking about the air quality health index around 10 already in that region, and things can really shift quickly from one spot to another, as it's maybe getting even worse if you are in the affected region, which means everybody's affected. If you have issues, just stay inside. It's not about people with health conditions. Even people with no health issues will be impacted by this snow. Now, talking about Winnipeg and surrounding areas, we're shaping up to be more like a cloudy day, wet weather moving through. 19 degrees right now, expecting conditions to shift into showers and thunderstorms sometime this morning, and that may end in the afternoon. We're looking for the city. We're looking about 10 to 15 millimeters of rain. If this system comes, then the smoke is going to return. No warnings for now, but the smoke will be returning as we end the day, and we will see temperatures get close to 21 degrees for the southern part of the province, and that's what it's going to look like. Smoke will be returning to most regions down south. As you see on the map, you see the rain coming and smoke also tracking our way, while up north is more about smoke this morning in every region in the northern part of the province.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Good caution there. Now let's go to the morning commute with Sierra Sanders. Good morning.
Good morning,
Nice
Marcy.
to see ya.
Nice to see you too. Nothing developing this morning as we get the show started and this morning commute started. But if that is not the case and there's something slowing you down out there, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Well, if you're one of those people, and there are many, choosing to staycation this summer, then there's certainly a lot to do, including Ballet in the Park, which is back at Assiniboine Park's Lyric Theatre. It starts again tomorrow. It's a 3-day event. It's put on by the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. It offers audiences a first glimpse of the 2025-26 season and introduces some new faces and dancers as well. So as I mentioned, it starts tomorrow. It's free, and this is the first time the Royal Winnipeg Ballet comes together on stage under the artistic direction of Christopher Stowell, who is the RWB's new artistic director. And somehow we convinced Christopher to be up early this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Marcy?
I'm well. How lovely has it been being in this position as artistic director with the RWB for you?
Well, extremely lovely. It's an honor to be in this position. My husband and I moved here about 2 months ago now, so we feel like true Winnipeggers. And getting the season started at Assiniboine Park it's a new experience for me, but I'm very excited about it.
Tell us a little bit about what people can expect to see at this year's performance. You have quite a rundown of different performances.
Yeah, so the Royal Winnipeg Ballet has, of course, a renowned performing company, but we also have a large school that is made up of 2 different divisions. One that is sort of a professional track for students wanting to pursue a career in classical ballet, and the other is the recreational division, which offers a whole slew of different dance styles to every possible age. And I selected to have the recreational division do some performances for us starting tomorrow night for Ballet in the Park. So we have students of various levels doing some dances for you. And then after a brief intermission, the company will perform a work called Tall Wild Men of the Woods by Cameron Fraser Monroe, a very well-known choreographer who is actually a graduate of the Royal Winnipeg Ballet School.
Who are the new faces on stage this year? Tell us a little bit about the new dancers and how excited they are about this.
Well, let's see. We have 4 new members of the company. I guess I could say 6 because 2 were promoted. But one dancer was in the aspirant program. It's sort of a trainee program of the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, the level between the school and becoming a professional dancer. And she is joining the organization as an apprentice. And then I also found dancers from Australia, South Korea, and the United States to move to Winnipeg and join the company as well. And they are all performing for the very first time together as part of the company tomorrow evening.
Take us inside that, Christopher, because I think, the average person who obviously doesn't do the work that you do hears, you found dancers from all over the world and attracted them to come dance here in Winnipeg. Does that start with watching their performances and studying them, or would you talk to other artistic directors around the world about up-and-coming talent, or would it be from applications of dancers that want to be in our city?
It's actually the last thing you said. So I guess I mischaracterized finding them. A lot of people want to be in. A lot of dancers from all over the world seek employment with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. Literally hundreds of people apply. I, of course, go through the various applications, and then I usually, in addition to asking them if they can come to Winnipeg to take some classes with us so that we can see if they're a good fit and to make sure that they feel that RWB in Winnipeg is a good fit for them. I also do, as you said, I talk to people they have worked with to get sort of a little bit more history on their personality and what they bring to the stage. So it's a relatively complex system because you want to make sure that someone joining a company like this is going to be at the excellent level of the rest of the dancers.
Tell us a bit about the piece at Ballet in the Park that is for the performance. Tell us more about the performance choreographed by, I understand, an Indigenous graduate. What's the story of the dance?
So I have seen it only in rehearsal, and we're not doing the entire piece. It's about an hour long. It premiered with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet just over a year ago. So we're doing a large excerpt of that, about I think 35 minutes. And it's originally an Indigenous story, but I noticed that, like many stories across the world, it can relate to stories from other cultures as well. The idea is that parents would discourage their kids from going out in the woods at night because of Tall, the Wild Men of the Woods, who would capture children and roast them and eat them. So a little bit gory. But the dance itself is spectacular in that it really establishes this sense of community. And slowly, as we see this sort of community come to life, a few characters come forward. We get to know a young girl and her sister, and then the wild man appears, and luckily, I can tell you it ends happily.
That's the piece you were referring to earlier. I love that, you're obviously new artistic director, but you're talking about all the dancers, many of them, new together as well. What's it like to be working on this? Everybody's sort of having a first time at this.
Well, because I don't know the work intimately, because I just joined the organization, I've been checking in with the artistic staff who has been working with the dancers on making sure that new members are fitting in comfortably. Do they have the information they need? Are they good team members? That kind of thing. So really wanting to support both the new dancers, but also the members of the company who have danced this before, and making sure that the new dancers are sort of fitting in well.
Ballet in the Park obviously is such a service to the public to get to know the RWB, and it's such a lovely thing to go do. But you got to think about the smoke this year. We just heard Lauren talking about the warnings. How much of a concern is that for your performers?
Well, it's a concern for me because I want to make sure that they are safe and it's a healthy environment. And also, of course, many people show up at the park looking forward to us performing. So it's sort of a balance between making sure we can perform well and safely, and also keeping in mind the excitement building within the community. I have been thinking about the temperature, because there are some rules around how cold or warm it can be for the performers. But now we also have to, of course, factor in air quality. So we're watching that carefully.
Well, we'll see what happens. It looks like the temperature should be fine for you tomorrow night in the park. Tomorrow's high is 24, and then overnight it's about 16, and it's supposed to clear by tomorrow night. So that'll be nice as well after a rainy day today. Thank you so much for being up early and telling us about this. Obviously, people can find more details online if they want to attend.
Oh, my pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
All right. Bye.
That's Christopher Stoll, the new artistic director of Ballet in the Park. And as mentioned before, the event is free. So it starts tomorrow. It's the July 23rd to 25th. It runs 3 days at the Lyric Theatre in Assiniboine Park. And if you want more information before heading to the shows, and you want to know what to bring and what to expect, you can head to the RWB or to the Assiniboine Park's websites.
As wildfires impact our province, keep up to date with CBC. For the latest information, listen to CBC Radio 1. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba or the CBC News app. For people who have a limited data plan or are running into spotty mobile service on the road, visit cbc.ca/lite. That's cbc.ca/LITE.
6:24 a.m. is the time right now, and in case you're wondering, as of now, wildfires, of course, do continue to burn in the province. Yesterday's bulletin, which is the very latest we have this morning, says there's 120 active wildfires across the province. There's 331 wildfires we've had to date. Of course, the state of emergency continues, and we're watching carefully what's going on up around Leaf Rapids. It is in Winnipeg, 19 degrees, partly cloudy, and we're expecting rain today. Well, next on the program, after the United Kingdom announced it will reduce the voting age to 16 by the next general election, the world is watching. There's a growing push to lower the voting age in other countries, including here in Canada, where it's been explored before. In 2021, a group of youth advocates brought forward a legal challenge, and that is still making its way through the courts to the legal challenge to lower the voting age. Now, some supporters say that young people are informed and ready. Others argue the complete opposite. It's not time yet. Joining me now with their take is Amanda Monday, Executive Director of New Majority. They're located in Toronto. Good morning.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Just before we get into this, people might not know what your group is, New Majority. So can you tell us a little bit about what New Majority is?
Yeah, so New Majority is a nonpartisan nonprofit organization, and we're really elections experts. We walk young people to the polls. We're obsessed with get out the vote in provincial, municipal, and the most recent federal election.
So what do you think about the idea of walking 16-year-olds to the polls in Canada?
You know, I think that it's time. Most reasons we let 16-year-olds drive, in the very least apply for a learner's permit. They work part-time. If you're making more than $15,000 a year, you pay taxes, but we draw the line at voting. To me, that's not about maturity. That's outdated assumptions.
When you look at the UK making this decision just to let 16-year-olds vote, how much could that, since you obviously feel it's time, how much could that lend to those that also feel it's time to the efforts here in Canada to make that happen? Do you think it's going to start something globally?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there are many countries that are already allowing 16 and 17-year-olds to vote. There's Germany, Brazil, and Austria, and now the UK. You know, there's a growing movement in Canada, the Vote 16 nonprofit, nonpartisan movement, and there's a ton of grassroots organizing of young people who want the right to vote. And so, yeah, this is, you know, it's a historic win for democracy, and I do believe it will help bolster the efforts in Canada to lower the voting age.
What are the main reasons for lowering the voting age beyond, you know, it being time? And you addressed how you feel the maturity issue or maybe the lack of maturity issue you feel is not necessarily at play. But what would the other reasons be? Why do we need more people to vote?
Yeah, so, you know, I'm obsessed with democracy and turnout, which tends to not necessarily be one of the sexier politic conversations that happen when we talk about elections and politics. But I can tell you that democracy works best when a majority of young people, or a majority of people in general, are actively participating. And the case for lowering the voting age is that it will increase voter turnout over time, which is particularly important for young people, where we've seen turnout decline since 2015. And also it gives a voice to young people who are already a part of our economy.
In terms of the arguments against this, obviously one of the big ones is about you know, whether or not young people are actually informed enough to be able to understand heading to the vote. What might need to change in this country to change that? Because you've already said you feel that they're informed enough, but for those that feel they're not, they might think, well, are they learning enough about this in school? Or how do we give them sort of younger people a more real experience to understand the impact of what casting that vote means? Or do you think that we're fine as is?
Yeah, you know, I think a number of things about the strongest, you know, argument that the against team or con against voting, lowering the voting age, is that 16-year-olds aren't mature enough. Research shows otherwise. Also, I would say, would you say that every adult over 18 is instantly mature, or that maturity and informed opinions is magically granted at 18? I think that's silly. You know, if you look at Austria in particular, one interesting note is that once they lowered the voting age, turnout for 16 and 17-year-olds outpaced 18 to 24, which the data then is revealing 16 and 17-year-olds are informed. They do care. Young people are actively participating in the economy. They're civically minded. They care deeply about climate, about affordability, as so many other Canadians do. It makes sense that we would allow them to participate civically. And then in terms of education, yes, in Ontario, we have the Civics program that's taught in grade 10. And yet, so we teach civics, we teach civic and democracy, democratic participation. And then we say, don't vote until you're 18. And, you know, that's a good way to ensure distrust between the political system and young people. I say invite them in earlier, because we know that once somebody votes for the first time, they're much more likely to become a voter for life.
Do we understand whether or not younger voters might lean more left or right politically based on, I mean, is there data even to show what happens in other countries, or do we know what might happen in Canada?
Yeah, so because I work on Get Out the Vote, I'm not in the business of predicting outcomes for elections. I've learned otherwise by this point to be able to suggest how elections will turn out. That being said, I don't believe that lowering the voting age to 16 or 17 would flip election results overnight. What I do think is that it will change the conversation. It will force politicians to listen and then, most importantly, act on the concerns of young people. One thing that's really interesting is that what we've seen over talking to hundreds of thousands of young people is they don't identify as card-carrying party loyalists. So they're not, you know, I'm from a conservative household or NDP or Liberal. What we hear is that young people say, I care about the issues like climate, like affordability, rent, jobs, employment, mental health. And so While I don't believe that outcomes will dramatically shift by lowering the voting age, I do believe it will force candidates to platform those issues that young people care about. And that shift in accountability is what will change politics. It's not outcomes, it's priorities.
Thanks for your perspective, Amanda. Appreciate you weighing in.
Thanks for having me.
That's Amanda Monday, the executive director of New Majority. Now it's your turn. Do you think we should lower the voting age in this country to 16? 788-3205. Weigh in this morning on the listener line. Business news coming up on CBC, but right now, your local 6:30 CBC Manitoba News.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Lauren Donnelly in Winnipeg at 6:30. It's 15 degrees and partly cloudy at the airport. Showers or thunderstorms ending this afternoon, smoky and windy, a high of 21 degrees. With wildfires just several kilometers away from their community, evacuees from Leaf Rapids are anxiously waiting to see what will happen. Elizabeth Charrier keeps tabs on her hometown through social media. It's the only way she knows what's happening.
It's sad because, we don't really know what'll happen. We don't know what we're going home to. It's kind of all up in the air. We don't know. We don't really know what's going on.
More than 300 residents were evacuated from Leaf Rapids earlier this month due to wildfires. The town has been without a mayor or council since 2019. It's run by an administrator appointed by the province. Yesterday, the province said a fire guard is being built around Leaf Rapids, and firefighters are ready to go if flames get to the community's edge. One woman is in shock after learning her estranged father's grave is empty. Elizabeth Patrick lives in England. She spent years searching for her father, who was a Second World War veteran. Patrick learned he was buried in an unmarked grave at the Green Acres Cemetery just outside Winnipeg. She wanted to relocate his remains to Ontario so he could be buried with a military headstone next to her son, who also served.
In order to have a last post headstone, you have to have remains, and they don't leave any soldier without a headstone. He was part of the Commonwealth. He's entitled to that. But without remains, he's not.
The RCMP is involved because the empty grave is considered a missing person. A spokesperson says police have used ground-penetrating equipment in the area multiple times but haven't been able to locate any remains. The company that owns Green Acres told CBC it purchased the cemetery in the 2000s. It says the records passed down to them might not be accurate. Winnipeg will soon have 13 traffic calming curbs to slow speeding drivers in some areas of the city. The city says they'll be placed near schools and dense residential areas known for speeding issues, intersections with wide corners, and crosswalks with poor visibility. Councillor Janice Lukes is chair of the Public Works Committee. She says putting up markers and sending police to reduce speeds can only do so much.
We're an older city, increasing our population, we're densifying our cities, but people still seem to drive fast. I really wish people would just slow down and become more observant of what's around them. It will save everyone money, and it will save lives.
The first curbs are set to be installed on Chancellor Drive this week. Titasqueac Cree Nation says its water treatment plant is once again working. On June 17th, Chief and Council posted on social media it needed repairs, preventing wildfire evacuees from the community from returning home. On Saturday, Chief and Council announced the plant is now fixed. Titasqueac Cree Nation member Albertine Spence says people are anxious to go home, but there's a lot of factors at play when it comes to their safety.
Then they need to have people in the nursing station, people working in the store at the northern store. We need to have those supply routes open. We need to know that they're done with the backburns.
The latest Manitoba Fire Bulletin from yesterday says the fire near Titasqueac remains out of control. A mandatory evacuation order is still in effect. The community was first evacuated on May 30th. Finally, wildfire smoke this summer has led to changes at Assiniboine Park Zoo's day camp. Organizers developed a policy earlier this year on what to do when air quality is too poor to spend long periods of time outside. Jody Watson with the Assiniboine Park Conservancy says it's all part of a new reality of living with smoky conditions.
If we do have a day where the air quality is poor, we're going to modify our activities. We're going to try to spend more time inside, limit the outdoor time. We've encouraged parents to provide masks for for their kids. We've been providing masks for our own staff, and then we do have some that are available for campers.
Watson says about 120 kids attend camp at the zoo every week. And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg.
All right, thanks, Lauren.
You're welcome.
That's Lauren Donnelly filling in for Heather Wells this week. Later in the morning, actually, we're going to have a conversation about smoke and air quality. We've had a lot of conversations about it, but probably they're around short-term impact, which is what Abby will talk about today. Be careful. However, what about the long-term impact? What is that going to do over time? Even if you are careful, you're outside in the smoke at some point, especially think about if you're in those northern areas, right? Where we have those fires burning and raging. So what is the long-term impact on our health? We have that interview coming up later on Information Radio for you. Right now, though, speaking of Abby, let's get into our regional forecast here on CBC.
Good morning, Marcy. One thing I know for sure is the smoke really has effect on people, because I remember one time, like about 2-3 weeks ago, I thought I was still my happy self and I can spend more time outside. I was at the beach, but I got home and I felt very sick.
Yeah.
And it's been hanging back inside of me all through till
now. How does it present for you? I know how it presents for me, and I live with a little bit of asthma, so that's probably why. But how about you?
I notice I can't spend much time outside. It's like my lungs are collapsing most of the time. I try to take in.
Oh, you can really feel it.
I can really feel it. Feels heavy
for me.
When
I
I'm
get this
in.
Weird little the telltale thing for me, and this is if I'm out gardening or out for a while, and I come in, all of a sudden my throat will feel a bit sore, and I'll be like, "Oh, am I getting sick?" And I'll go, "Oh, no, that's just the effect of the smoke," and sometimes a little bit of a cough.
And then it triggers a migraine for me also.
Oh, yeah, that's nasty stuff. Now we do have smoke warnings across all of the north, right?
Unsettled across the northern part of the province. Air quality warning still remains in effect. I'm talking about the PA surrounding area, Flin-Flon surrounding area, all the way down to Norway House. We're seeing smoke in Thompson and surrounding, tracking it towards Gillam. The same thing we're seeing there. Lynn Lake, Churchill, wildfire smoke really causing poor air quality and low visibility in these regions, as mentioned earlier. And I'm looking at the index around 10 plus this morning in those regions. So you need to take care. Very, 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 very risky for people out there. And this smoke can really shift quickly. It will be affecting breathing in people with health issues. And even if you don't have health issues, it's still going to make things uncomfortable for you. So try as much as possible to reduce activities outdoor if you notice this is affecting you. Now in the Red River Valley region, it's more about partly cloudy conditions to start the day. We're expecting some showers and thunderstorms sometime this morning, and by your lunch break into the afternoon, we'll see the rain taper off. We're looking at about 10 to 15 millimeters. That is if this rain comes our way and it catches the city of Winnipeg. We should be seeing about 10 to 15 millimeters of rain, and then the winds will be shifting from the north and feeling breezy at some point during the midday period. We'll see highs around 21. Similar conditions in the Pembina Valley region this morning. We're looking at Modern Winkler, Alton and Morris. Temperatures hovering around 18 and 19 degrees. Also expecting up to 20 millimeters of rain in that region, and we'll see highs around 23. It's going to be feeling humid though, with the humidex close to 28, 29. Now head west to Brandon, 16 degrees. We already have rain in that part of the province. It's on and off this morning. More showers still in the forecast. That would ease by late morning, giving way to cloudy skies. Smoke is expected to sweep into the Brandon region sometime in the afternoon, and we'll see temperatures get to 21 degrees. Now in the Parkland region, 15 degrees. Also seeing light rain. Robin Russell all the way down to Riding Mountain areas. We're spotting rain here and there, and there's a good chance of thunderstorms to come with that. Winds would be from the south. It's going to feel windy, and smoke is still in that part of the province as well. We'll see highs around 23 degrees. For the Interlake region, partly cloudy at this time, 15 degrees in Gimli. Showers and thunderstorms also expected sometime this morning, and that should end around the afternoon period. Winds would come from the west, feel a bit windy at some point. We'll see highs around 22 degrees. Now the powerful influence surrounding areas where we have thick smoke in the air with that air quality warning active. Visibility is really, really low in that part of the province, and that's going to be the condition throughout the day. The smoke will linger. We'll see highs around 19 degrees. Thompson, 9 degrees, smoky skies. That would stay with you for most of the day also. We'll see temperatures around 21. And then further north in Churchill, smoke continues to be a concern, but that should clear sometime this morning, living behind a mix of sun and clouds, and we'll only see highs around 17 degrees. So it's more like wet conditions we're expecting down south, and the smoke will linger in the northern part of the province. Right now, we're looking at 19 degrees in Winnipeg.
Too bad the north isn't. I know everyone's talking about it. Too bad we're not getting this rain in the north, right?
Yeah, if you check the map, you're just going to see the rain is more concentrated in the southern parts of the province.
Yeah, I know we need it here. I know producers, farmers, your city yards.
But the north really needs this rain.
People want to go home. All right, let's get into what's happening on the morning commute. Sierra Sanders has popped into studio with an update.
Good morning. I just wanted to let folks know about a closure on Portage Avenue East. So all eastbound and westbound lanes of Portage Avenue East between Main Street to Westbrook Street will be closed for water work until August 4th. And so there will be one eastbound lane open. So it sounds like there will be one lane open through there, but expect delays. It is not open to its usual capacity. So use alternate routes if that is on your main commute in the morning. If there's anything else slowing you down out there, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Sierra.
Thank you.
Let's go to business news. Next was Chrisley Ramlakan, who joins us via Zoom, actually. If you're watching the show, you'll see her pop up there. How are you doing?
I'm good, Mercy. How are you?
I'm well. Nice to be back with you. So let's start about a story in business news this morning that looks at how businesses in Canada are feeling about the current economy. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so a new pair of reports from the Bank of Canada say tariff-related uncertainty continued to put a damper on business and consumer sentiment in the second quarter. Not surprising when we see everything that's been going on. However, the worst-case scenarios that firms envisioned last quarter are now seen as less likely to occur. So little positive news there. So the Outlook survey says business sentiment is still subdued, but has improved from the sharp declines in the spring. Now, just over a quarter of firms are planning for a recession. However, that is down from about a third last quarter. But, the number is still higher than the previous 2 quarters. Now, the report says the negative effects of trade tensions that most businesses predicted last quarter have actually materialized, and firms expect them to persist. But then at the same time, businesses have moderated their expectations for negative impacts. So kind of up and down at the same time there. Nevertheless, the report says uncertainty around financial, economic, and political conditions remains the top concern for firms. And then, Mercy, that uncertainty is still holding back businesses on new investment plans as they continue to conservatively manage their finances.
Well, those are the first stories we started doing when they started talking tariffs earlier this year, or the U.S. did rather, was, asking Canadian companies, what are you holding off on? So it's not just the impact, it's also the impact on on what, holding the plans, putting all those plans on pause. So there's been a large recall that we have to talk about here. It's on swimming pools. What are the details on this story?
Yeah, and an important story for this time of year, right? Because it's summer, people are swimming. So Health Canada has issued a recall for more than 260,000 above-ground swimming pools sold in Canada since the early 2000s after, unfortunately, 9 kids drowned in the United States. And another 5 million pools are under recall advisory in the U.S. So lots of them sold, of course, south of the border, but some sold here too. So the notices cover a range of Bestway, Intex Recreation, and Polygroup pools sold as far back as 2002. So the pools have compression straps on the outside that may create a foothold for children and allow them access to the water unattended. So that's the issue here. Now, pool companies have not received any reports of incidents or injuries in Canada, though, but consumers are still being urged to immediately contact the makers of the pools to receive a free repair kit, which will consist of a rope to replace the compression strap. And, owners can also just drain their pools until repairs are made if you want to be extra safe. And all of the pools can be identified by brand and model names listed on Health Canada's recall notices that you can find online. And the pools were sold online and also at major retailers such as Walmart, Target, Lowe's, Costco, and Amazon.
Okay, good information there. And finally, how's Pepsi trying to get more people to drink its product?
Yeah, so the soda brand is leaning into a new health trend and is launching a prebiotic cola this fall. So this comes just a few months after the beverage giant acquired startup Poppi for almost $2 billion. Soda consumption has broadly fallen over the last 2 decades, but prebiotic sodas have, kind of won over some health-conscious consumers, younger consumers, with their gut health claims. So the new drink contains 3 grams of prebiotic fiber, 1 gram more than Poppi's soda, but only a third of Olipop's fiber content, which is another one of these drinks. The new beverage also contains 5 grams of cane sugar instead of corn syrup. It's going to be sold online first, and then will roll out in major retailers next year. Of course, the price is going to be slightly higher than traditional Pepsi, kind of the same as Poppi. Poppi is a little more expensive too. And, lots of brands are doing this, including Coke, of course. It introduced its own prebiotic soda, Simply Pop, earlier this year.
Can you imagine the first meeting? Let's make soda pop marketed as good for your gut. I'm guessing the whole boardroom would have been silent, but here we are with these new products. So interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they're big, powerful companies. They're going to try to sell their products as best as they can to
and I'm not
masses.
judging them. I have no idea if these things work or not. Never tried them. What's going on in the market so far?
So in Europe, markets are mixed. Germany is down, the UK is up, France is down. In Asia, markets are also mixed. Japan is down, Shanghai is up, Hong Kong is up. Oil is down 61 cents to 66.59 US per barrel. Gold is down $9.20 to $3,386.50 US per ounce. And the dollar is flat right now at 73.1 cents US.
All right, great to see you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Marcy.
That's Crystal Ramlakan with Business News. Tuesday morning, 13 minutes to 7 o'clock here on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team at the show. Brad, Sierra, and Abby behind the glass. 19 degrees in the city right now, 10 to 15 millimeters of rain on the way. Smoke warnings to the north. Well, a bit of music next from Tabi Osho, who's a Haitian R&B and neo-soul artist based out of Quebec. And this is her biggest tune. This is called Pause.
You wanted quantity, I wanted quality. I don't know how you do, but now I'm stuck on you. Ooh, baby, you got me going real crazy. Ooh, baby, now all I want is your company. My heart is on fire, express play with your love. Make me fall for you like I always do. My heart is on fire, express play with your love. Make me fall for you like I always do. I see my future in your eyes. When you touch me, I feel alive. You make me feel like I'm alright. I see my future in your eyes. When you touch me, I feel alive. You make me feel like I'm alright. You want to be with me, I don't see what you see. Losing my identity, we are our unity. Ooh, baby, you got me going real crazy. Ooh, baby, now all I want is your company. My heart is on fire, express play with your love. Make me fall for you like you always do. My heart is on fire, express play with your love. Make me fall for you like you
Tabiyosha, her song is called Pause. It is 11 minutes to 7 o'clock. Thanks for being with us here on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Great to be back with you. Big thanks to Faith Fundal for filling in for me for the last couple of weeks. I know Chloe Friesen was also here yesterday, and of course the rest of the team holding down the fort in the morning show. We're asking you this morning about the voting age, and the UK making it official. They're going to 16 years old to vote. Here in Canada, should we do the same? Why or why not? We'd love to hear from you. And that means if you are 16, if you are going to be 16, if you're just 17, maybe, because then you'll be included as well. But let us know what you're thinking about the voting age changing in Canada, whether or not that's something we should look at here and follow on the heels of what the UK is doing. Calls is what we'd love to hear. Love to hear your voice. 788-3205, 788-3205. Well, Canada's premiers have gathered in Cottage Country. They're north of Ontario in Huntsville. They're scheduled to meet there for 3 days. Today, they're preparing for the arrival of Prime Minister Mark Carney. And to talk about the agenda and what we might hear coming out of today's discussions, Alex Ballingall is with us, Deputy Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
So tell me a little bit about what's expected to be top of the agenda with Carney there today.
Well, I think, as we've talked about many times this summer, the trade war, how the talks are going between the Carney government and the Trump administration. That's the big thing. So we heard yesterday up there from premiers, they're talking about they want a bit of clarity from Carney on, exactly how the talks are going, what's on the table, if Canada accepts some level of tariffs above zero in any deal, what will be impacted. What level will that be? Which sectors will be most impacted? How long would any deal last? All these types of kind of technical but extremely important questions that all the premiers kind of have about where this might be going. That seems to be what they're looking for from Carney today. So I expect that will be a big focus of in the scrums and potentially in the room as well.
They want details. Everybody wants details.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, aside from that, I understand that bail reform is something that's going to be discussed today.
Yes, apparently it is. Yeah, bail reform, which was a pretty hot political issue in certain quarters of the country during the federal election campaign, and it was something that the Liberals as well as the Conservatives had promised to do. The Liberals, obviously, they won, and their promise was to basically make bail laws stricter for certain alleged criminals, violent crimes, people accused of being involved in organized crime, human trafficking, carjackings, which is, car theft was a big issue in a lot of cities, rising car thefts in battleground areas like the Greater Toronto area and stuff. So, certain premiers have wanted this, like in Ontario, Doug Ford has pushed for this. As I mentioned, the federal Conservatives had really, and they remain, intent on seeing stricter bail laws. So that's something that Carney is promising to introduce in the fall, legislation to do this, and apparently that's going to be discussed as well when he meets with the premiers.
In terms of other issues that are making federal political news this week, obviously Pierre Poilievre's by-election is coming up in weeks now. August 18th, I think, is the date for that. Mm-hmm. What do you see happening there? Because that's that interesting riding that has like the longest ballot in Canada, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the kind of the wrinkle in this, I guess, that there's the longest ballot initiative, which we've seen do this in certain by-elections and in high-profile ridings where there's like a high-profile candidate. It's basically an electoral reform movement, and they for attention to this cause, they stack the ballot with a bunch of no-hope candidates, and then it creates when somebody goes to vote, and they unspool this gigantic piece of paper with all the names on it to find their candidate to vote. So the longest ballot, quote unquote. And apparently for this by-election, they've signed up, already over 100 candidates. They're pushing for 200, but it's already apparently the longest ballot in Canadian history, the one with the most candidates in a riding election. So there's that. But overall, I think Poilievre, after he lost his seat in Ottawa, the seat he'd represented for 20 years. He found, I think, probably, if not certainly one of the safest conservative ridings in the country to run in. So there's that aspect, but then there's also this kind of more whimsical, silly aspect, of this electoral reform movement, stacking the ballot to make the longest ballot in Canadian history.
Now, despite that, the latter, you still believe that Poilievre is he's looking pretty sure to win this seat.
I think he's universally expected to win. It would be like a earth-shattering shock. It'd be a great journalism story. I guess it would be extremely unexpected if he lost. But I think the Conservative candidate in the spring in the federal election won with 83% of all votes cast, which is an absolute slam dunk win. So it would be a true sort of like knock your socks off shock if he didn't win with a very strong showing. So I think he's on course to win for sure.
Just in our last 2 minutes here, Alex, I want to end where we started, actually, with Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, meeting with the provincial and territorial leaders today over a number of different issues. Are they still all swimming in one direction, do you think? Because it's an interesting thing where we've had moments this year where we've had some provinces saying, they want to maybe go their own way on issues and maybe even be, less under the federal tent. And then we've had other moments when we're dealing, with Canada-US, especially around the trade issues, where there's been solidarity and strength has been something that's been sort of touted. And our premier here has certainly been on the latter page there. Is there any, what does that tension look like now or not as they head into today?
Well, I think, potentially if there is no deal by the new deadline for a potential deal is August 1st, Trump's threatening higher tariffs. He increased the tariffs a few weeks ago on steel and aluminum to 50%. There might be a discussion and potential differences on how to respond if there is no deal and the trade war and the existence of these steep tariffs on Canada continues and is sort of prolonged into the fall without a deal. Certain premiers disagree on what the right response looks like. Is it matching the tariffs? Is it doing other things? Is it focusing more exclusively on diplomacy and not, incurring the self-harm that counter tariffs would impose on us? Even if they're tailored to do that in a minimal way, there's still a cost to consumers. So, it's that might be somewhere where we see more daylight emerging if it goes there. But we'll have to see. I think, at this meeting, we might see kind of glimmers of those divisions.
But we're not there until August, until we know what they're going to do.
I think it depends exactly on what happens in the next week or so.
Yeah. All right, Alex, thanks for teeing all this up for us. Appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Alex Ballingal with us this morning, Deputy Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star. It's time to go to our Manitoba news headlines on our smoky morning here. We have Lauren Donnelly in our news center. Good morning.
Good morning. Some residents of Leaf Rapids say they're worried about the town's lack of leadership. The community of more than 300 people was evacuated earlier this month because of wildfires. Now they're worried they won't have anything to return to and no one advocating for them. And wildfire smoke this summer has led to changes at Assiniboine Park Zoo's day camp. We'll have more local news coming up after World Report.
All right, thanks very much, Lauren.
You're welcome.
Also still ahead, Winnipeg does not have the social housing needed to successfully and permanently move unhoused people off the street. The mayor said last week on CBC that we need to speed up building. But how do we do that? We're going to look at another city and another model to find out what their success has been. Also, are there valuable lessons to be learned from selling popsicles? CBC's Jim Agapito meets a trio of siblings out in Transcona who are trying to do good by selling one frozen treat at a time. And tomorrow's a big day for Manitoba teens hoping to learn to drive this fall. You might recall hundreds were unable to score spots on MPI's Driver's Ed program last May. We'll check in with MPI about what they've done to improve the experience this time around. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You are on CBC. Well, speaking of driving, call us if you have any problems out there or otherwise on your morning commute. 788-3093 is the commuter line. You can call Sierra and let her know what's up. Also, in the weather, I mentioned a smoky morning. In the north, there is a smoke warning. And here in the south, actually, it's a rainy morning. And if it's not raining where you are, it's coming. 10 to 15 millimeters expected in Winnipeg. That's going to be coming to us. Showers or storms beginning early this morning and through the day. Brandon also with 10 to 15 millimeters expected, so really a muggy start to the day. A high of 21 right now in Winnipeg with humidex, it feels like 27. Stay with us. World Report's next on CBC.
Today on The Current.
I'm Pia Chattopadhyay. Shark Week on television has become a summer tradition, but some experts say the on-screen portrayals have left us with a warped view of the sharp-toothed animals.
People usually ask, have you ever been scared? We were all scared.
A defense of sharks coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. 10 days until August 1st, the new deadline for Canada and the U.S. to reach a new economic and security partnership. Canada's premiers are holding a summit in Ontario's cottage country. They are trying to prepare their local economies for what could come next. As Olivia Stefanovich reports, the premiers will be joined by Prime Minister Mark Carney today.
I think it's important for us to dig in, stand strong for Canada, build our country.
BC Premier David Eby speaking ahead of a pivotal meeting between provincial leaders and Prime Minister Mark Carney, just before the latest trade deal deadline with the U.S. on August 1st.
Canada needs not to take a deep bow to the President of the United States. We're our own sovereign country. We can stand on our own.
Eby says there could be challenging times ahead. It's unclear if Canada will be able to land a tariff-free agreement with the U.S., and if it does, will President Donald Trump even respect it?
We can't panic. I know it's hurting a lot of businesses and hurting a lot of people.
David McNaughton is a former Canadian ambassador to the U.S. He's set to provide insight to the premiers at a working lunch today. His advice? Hope for a deal, but don't plan on one.
I think Donald Trump is feeling pretty cocky right now, full of himself. Thinks he's got everybody coming to him.
On top of trade talks, premiers are also trying to reinforce Canada's economy to make it less dependent on the U.S. Ontario signed 2 new agreements with BC and the territories to improve internal trade. Later today, Ontario, Alberta, and Saskatchewan are expected to sign a memorandum of understanding to build new energy and trade infrastructure. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Huntsville, Ontario.
Aid organizations say Israel's ground offensive, now pushing into central Gaza, is compromising humanitarian operations. The head of UNRWA, the UN's Palestinian Refugee Agency, says Gaza has become hell on earth. He says at least 1,000 people have been killed while seeking food. And doctors and aid workers are fainting from hunger and exhaustion. Israeli operations are now happening in Deir al-Balah, a humanitarian hub. Mohammed Fadlallah is with Doctors Without Borders.
We've actually closed one of our clinics temporarily and told the staff to stay home. We've more or less tried to corral and reduce our activity in any of our non-life-saving interventions.
The World Health Organization says Israeli forces attacked its facilities in Deir al-Balah yesterday. It says a main warehouse and a staff residence were hit by multiple airstrikes. The Israeli military has not commented on that incident. The United Kingdom is pledging to smash human smuggling gangs. A new migration policy includes sanctions against those who facilitate illegal boat crossings in the English Channel. It is the government's latest move to stop human smuggling into Britain. The CBC's Crystal Gomansing has more from London.
We will go after the smugglers. We will go after their enablers. We will go after those who sell engines.
UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy outlining his government's sanctions package aimed at smashing the gangs that smuggle desperate people looking to claim asylum across the English Channel. The package targets those who provide fake documents, the boats, and transfer huge sums of money paid to the smugglers. Those associated with the illegal trade will also have assets in the UK frozen.
I'd be surprised if it was a game changer for the industry as a whole.
Madeleine Sumption is the director of the Migration Observatory at Oxford University and the deputy chair of the Migration Advisory Committee.
Because there are so many people involved in this industry that targeting people individually is, probably only going to have impacts around the margins.
Small boat crossings have increased 50% from the same period last year to more than 23,000, according to the Home Office. Illegal crossings have been a hot-button issue in the UK, with many demanding the previous government and this one get control of the borders.
This is starting the first sanctions regime against irregular migration anywhere on the planet.
Foreign Secretary Lamy says Labour is also reviewing more asylum cases and returning more people who don't qualify to stay. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
Brazil's Supreme Court says former President Jair Bolsonaro must explain why he has breached a court order to stay off social media, and if he does not, he will be arrested again. Bolsonaro is on trial for allegedly plotting a coup. On Friday, the court deemed him a flight risk. He was ordered to wear an ankle bracelet and stay off social media, including through reporters and third parties. Hours later, news outlets shared details of an interview with Bolsonaro. A judge says that violates his court order. Tropical storm Wildfire is making landfall this morning in northern Vietnam. It is bringing winds of 102 kilometers an hour and heavy rain. Wildfire hit the Philippines yesterday, and heavy rain is still falling there. People in Manila wade through knee and waist-deep water to get around. Tropical storm Wildfire caused flooding in the streets in the capital. School and government offices are closed for a second day. Flights are canceled in Manila and nearby provinces. Thousands of families who live near rivers and waterways have had to evacuate their homes. Jasper, Alberta is marking 1 year since a wildfire tore through the town. A third of the structures were destroyed. Thousands of people were forced out of the community in that mountain town. A year later, the municipality and Parks Canada are highlighting what they're doing to protect the national park. Julia Wong has more from Jasper.
Could we add more resources? And short answer is I don't think it would have made much of a difference.
Jasper Fire Chief Matthew Conti believes crews did everything they could to protect the town during last year's destructive wildfire. About 1/3 of the buildings in Jasper burned down. Nearly 1 year later, Conti says residents seem to be taking fire prevention more seriously. He says about 30 home assessments have been done in the last 2 months.
People want to comply. They want to know what they need to do.
Out in Jasper's backyard,
This is really actually very intensive work.
Parks Canada is working to reduce the wildfire risk around the community. Dave Argument is a resource conservation manager.
The heavy equipment will come in and actually selectively remove the trees that we've asked them to target. And then we leave behind a lot of the coarse woody debris on the landscape as well, which helps with moisture retention.
But Argument warns there is no magic bullet to keeping the community safe.
We can cut all the trees we want here, and we still won't entirely ensure the safety of town. Fire smarting and community protection is a whole bunch of layers of steps that have to be taken.
Steps residents of this town won't be taking for granted as they try and move forward from last year's devastation. Julia Wong, CBC News, Jasper, Alberta.
The man accused of hijacking a plane at Vancouver International Airport and triggering a security scare last week is now facing a second charge. Shahir Kasim is now charged with damaging or interfering with a navigation system. That is in addition to the hijacking charge. Both charges carry a maximum sentence of life in prison. Kasim was arrested last Tuesday. Pressure is mounting on U.S. President Donald Trump to release more files on Jeffrey Epstein. Even members of Trump's own party are demanding more information about the convicted sex offender. But as we hear from the CBC's Katie Simpson, Trump appears to be trying to distract his way through the Epstein crisis.
President Donald Trump is smiling as he's sitting in the Oval Office with the YMCA blasting. Barack Obama is next to him when FBI agents walk in and arrest the former president. It's an AI-generated fake video that Trump reposted on his social media platform, one of many recent controversial posts.
All these sort of provocative statements that are designed to get people talking about literally anything other than Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein.
Chris Galdari is a political science professor at St. Anselm College, and he says Trump is waging a distraction campaign. The president has struggled to explain his personal relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and why his government has failed to release more files related to the sex offender's criminal investigation. Galdari says he's not surprised by the Obama post or other divisive of statements as this scandal drags on.
I think this second term, we're seeing Trump completely unchained. I think there are very few people in this White House, in this administration, who are willing to say, wow, that was just a step too far, sir. You might want to take that down.
Trump has asked the FBI and Department of Justice to release any credible files related to Epstein, a process that requires court approval and is so far not moving quickly. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. If you are enjoying the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, hello, everybody, and good morning. I'm Mercy Marcusa. Nice to be back with you here at Information Radio on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Smoky in the north, going to be rainy here in the south. 19 degrees right now in Winnipeg. We'll get more into the weather soon. Well, tomorrow, you might be thinking about driving. Tomorrow's a big day for Manitoba teens hoping to learn to drive this fall. But you might remember that hundreds were unable to score spots on MPI's Driver's Ed program last May. They made some short-term changes. We'll find out what those are and what the long-term goals are to improve the system as well. In addition this hour, are there valuable lessons to be learned from selling popsicles? CBC's Jim Agapito meets a trio of siblings. He's going to take us to meet them in Transcona this hour. They're trying to do good in the world by selling one frozen treat at a time, and we'll explain. And last week here on CBC's Information Radio, the mayor of the city of Winnipeg said that he is hoping that housing starts can be improved in terms of built quicker. We're going to find out more about what some other cities do in terms of trying to help their unhoused populations and how quickly they're able to get starts built. We're going to take you to a program that, in fact, the Manitoba government took a delegation to visit down south recently, and that was as they were planning what they were going to be doing here for solutions to homelessness and houselessness. So stay tuned. We're going to talk to them once again on the program. That's coming up just before 8 o'clock. Right now, let's go to Lauren Donnelly. She's in with our news headlines otherwise. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning. One woman is in shock after learning her estranged father's grave is empty. Elizabeth Patrick spent years searching for her father, who was a Second World War veteran. She wanted to relocate his remains from a cemetery outside of Winnipeg to Ontario so he could be buried with a military headstone. She was told there's nothing there. We'll have more on that story. And some Winnipeg parents say they're cautiously watching air quality updates with a short summer break and young kids looking for things to do. One dad says balancing the risk of smoke exposure with time outdoors is a new reality. That's all in your next local news at 7:30.
All right. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
It's going to rain, Abby.
Yeah, it's going to rain in the southern parts of the province. We're looking at the rain already coming. We're seeing it in the Melita and into Morden. Steinbach already getting some rain in Sprague. But up north, it's more about smoke. Air quality warning in effect across all of northern Manitoba this morning. The smoke really causing poor air quality and reduced visibility. So if you're up north, you need to take care. Winnipeg, we're seeing that partly cloudy conditions. A few showers and thunderstorms expected this morning. We're looking at 10 to 15 millimeters, but things should clear up as we get into the afternoon. Then the smoke will be sweeping in. We're looking at hazy skies, and when that smoke comes to the city, we're going to be seeing the air quality health index around 10 plus, which will be posing very high risk if you spend time outside. So take care. 15 to 19 degrees across the southern part of the province and 9 to 12 degrees up north. Winnipeg 19 right now, warming up close to a high near 21 degrees.
All right. Thanks very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's get into the morning commute. So far, it's been a little bit quiet, but there are some regular spots, not regular, some new construction spots to watch for. Sierra's in with the update here at 13 minutes past 7. What's up now?
Good morning. So as we get into the peak of the morning commute, I want to remind folks that there's a closure on Portage Avenue East. So all eastbound and westbound lanes of Portage Avenue East, that's between Main Street and Westbrook Street, will be closed for water work until August 4th. So there will be one eastbound lane open, though, so a little bit of good news, but obviously not open to its usual capacity. So you can expect delays through there, and use alternate routes if that is on your main commute. So that is on Portage Avenue East, all eastbound and westbound lanes between Main Street and Westbrook Street. Whew, that's a mouthful. Will be closed until August 4th. There will be one lane open, but you can expect delays through there. If there's anything else slowing you down, whether maybe that's a construction project or maybe something going on the roads, whether that is here in the city or out on the highways, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Well, speaking of the roadways, some Manitoba teens are anxious to get out there and get their licenses, and their parents might be setting their alarms bright and early for tomorrow morning because registration, as I mentioned, for MPI's popular high school education program, Driver's Ed, opens at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Now, the last time the Driver's Ed registration opened, hundreds left disappointed. They were unable to secure spots. There were long lineups at some MPI locations in Winnipeg as early as 5 a.m., and in Brandon, a few folks actually camped out in line overnight at their local Autopack broker. Now, once registration started at 8 o'clock last time, all the available seats across the province sold out in 90 minutes. 90, hour and a half. So, what do you do tomorrow if you want to get a spot? What do you keep in mind? Tarsiel is with us for MPI to tell us more about the program. Good morning.
Morning, Marcy. Thanks for having me.
And thank you, Tara. I think I said Tara there by accident.
That's okay.
Okay, so problems last time. What's changed this time around?
Well, first of all, last time was a summer condensed program, so there weren't nearly as many seats just because it's offered over those 2 months condensed in the summer. So this is our regular fall program, but we have increased the seats by quite a bit. So we've got nearly 4,700 seats, and over 2,000 of those are outside of Winnipeg. So compared to the fall of 2024, when there were 4,200 total seats, we do have an increase. We've also recognized the frustration that parents and students were feeling with the registration process. So we've opened our service centers across the province a little bit early. So all of them will be open at 8 o'clock a.m. for registration. We're also encouraging people to go to their local broker. We're going to have over 40 dedicated agents at our contact center who are dealing solely with driver's ed registration. And our driver education phone line will also have dedicated agents, and it will be opening early. So all will be open at 8 o'clock.
Are those dedicated agents new, or is the increased number in dedicated agents what's new there?
The dedicated agents are new, and we've also increased the number of agents that will be working in the contact center that morning. So it's kind of a double-pronged approach there to try and make sure that people aren't waiting for an extended period of time on the phone line.
What do you understand about demand for this? So obviously you started by saying one of the changes is you've increased things by 500 seats, but I mean, how much more are you going to have to increase them? What's the long-term understanding of this?
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to get a firm idea of how many students want this because we can go with demographics of who's turning 15 and a half. But then there's people who are all the way up to 18 who decide that they want to take the course too. So it's not always clear exactly what the demand is, but we know the demand is very high for this popular program. So I think, we're looking to the long term to how we make the registration process more user-friendly. We completely appreciate that that's a problem. But what we really need is more instructors, right? If we have instructors who are trained and prepared to teach that course, Manitoba Public Insurance is prepared to offer as many courses as necessary. We just need those teachers. We offer that training free, and in some cases we provide the vehicle for the trainer. So we really are encouraging people to go to our website if they have any interest in becoming a driving instructor, and that will help us be able to offer more seats.
Are there private companies that offer driving instruction that you could lean on, like instructors that are already trained, that you could subsidize or partner with that might be part of the solution here?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, those people are running their own business, right? So they have a stake in the game in terms of, attracting students on their own. So we have leveraged those instructors as much as we can. But we really, the bottom line is we just need more folks, especially in the rural areas, to step up and be willing to, take this training and offer the course. But we also understand that it's it's evenings and weekends work mostly, and you're getting in the car with, unlicensed drivers who are learning. So we realize it's not for everyone, but we do offer comprehensive training and are very interested in talking to anyone who just wants to learn a little bit more about the program.
Two questions about numbers, Tara, and I'm not sure which ones you have, but you said there is some data to talk about how many, 15 and a half year olds there are, to try to get a sense of maybe how short you are in terms of how many spots you'd like to offer in the program, should you have the instructors there. What's your sense of that number? How many 15 and a half year olds? Is there a boom in that part of the population at all or not?
I don't have the numbers of exactly how many 15 and a half year olds there are. I don't think there's a boom. I think there is a bit of a backlog, right? I do think that there's still kids who are 16 and a half who are still looking to take this course. So it's not just the 15 and a half year olds. So that's where we're trying to find that balance and offer enough courses. And we'll really have a good idea after this session about, how many people have shown interest in the program, because we are asking people to, purchase the program ahead of time and set up their child as an MPI customer. And that will make things go a lot faster on registration day.
The other question about numbers I have is how short you are of instructors. I don't know how many instructors you have right now, and are you seeking to double that, or what do you need?
Well, we have. Pardon me, we have increased our number of instructors by, I believe it's close to 20. So I think we'd be looking to do about the same for that. So maybe another 20 or so. But again, we'll have a better idea because the last program was our condensed summer. So there's never the same amount of seats in the summer as there is during the fall, just because of the condensed time period. So we'll have a better idea after this registration period, kind of what we're looking at in terms of demand at this point in time.
Got it. How many total instructors do you have if you're seeking to increase by about 20?
Oh, gosh, Marcy, I wish I had the number on the tip of my
That's
finger.
okay. I warned you I was going to ask for a bunch of numbers. That's okay. Let me ask you this. You mentioned that one of the longer term things you're going to be looking at beyond tomorrow is, you said the registration process needs work, and that you said. So tell us a little bit about how you hope to improve that.
Well, we're looking at a number of long-term solutions. So, obviously, going online is something that we are definitely have our sights set on. I don't have it in terms of a timeline or anything like that, but obviously, that's how people want to interact with us these days is online, and that's how a lot of people do their transactions. So we absolutely recognize that, and that is definitely in our sights for the long term.
So for tomorrow then, you mentioned this, but I just want to ask you clearly, what should parents and teens do today to prepare for registration tomorrow that will help?
Yes, thank you for asking that, because this is really important. There's 3 steps to the driver's ed registration process. The first step is getting your youth set up as an MPI customer. This means we need to verify their identity, and this needs to be done in person. It can be done at a broker or at an MPI service center. If you go on our website, you'll see the documents you need to have to verify identity. And the second step is purchasing the driver's ed program. If these 2 steps are done ahead of the third step, which is actual registration, then that will smooth the process, because we're not having to verify identity documents or do financial transactions the morning of registration, because that does really slow things down. You don't want to get stuck in line behind someone who has to do those 2 steps, because spots are filling up in other ways while those transactions are taking place. So today, there's still lots of time to go and get your child set up as an MPI customer and purchase the driver's ed program. And then tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock a.m., you can go to a broker, you can use our contact center, our driver education line, or a Manitoba Public Insurance Service Center to register your child.
What do you say to people who are thinking about camping overnight to get a spot?
Honestly, I don't know that that's the best use of their time. Right? We do have all these methods available to them. You use your broker. Not everyone has to go to an MPI service center. Of course, we're happy to assist when they do, but brokers are out there to help too, right? So you can go to your AutoPack agent and work with them. The phone lines, like I said, we have more agents available, and now we're dedicating agents to taking those calls. So camping out, I don't think that that's going to get you too much of an advantage. We're really trying to improve access to our people so that we can get people registered easier.
Well, we'll see how tomorrow goes, but if there are families that don't get a spot, Tara, what are their options, and do they get placed on a list, or that's that?
Well, there is no list at this time. It's first come, first serve, and that's what we've heard from our customers that they prefer. In terms of fairness, but there is always the option of private driver education. Of course, you have to wait till you're 16, 15 and a half is through the driver's ed program. So the child would have to wait till they're 16. But and then we'll be offering more classes again in the winter sessions. So that's kind of where it is at, but we're really hoping with these increased seats that we see a lot more students having success registering for this program.
And just last, Tara, before you go, if someone today wants to read, what we've talked about, the process, registration, remind us of your website for more details.
Yes, it's www.mpi.mb.ca/driver-z, and that'll give you everything you need to know about how to register.
All right, appreciate you being on today. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
That's Tara Seal. She's spokesperson for MPI. Once again, mpi.mb.ca/driver-z is where you can find more information. Registration opens tomorrow at 8 o'clock. It is time now for morning sports at 7:25 a.m. on your Tuesday, July 22nd. Let's find out what's going on with Scott Reguera, who's wearing a really nice summery shirt if you're watching YouTube. I like that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
My wife wasn't quite a fan of it, so I appreciate your support in this matter.
Got to get validation. I'll wear something my husband hates tomorrow, and you can tell me you love it.
Deal.
Hey, I watched a bit of the Jays last night. Wow. This season, what are they at, 11 or 12 now wins?
They are at 11 after beating the Yankees last night, Marcy. Franchise best performance at home, that run. Bo Bichette had the key hit last night in the fifth inning, a double that drove home a couple of runs, which brought the sellout crowd of 42,000 strong on a Monday night to its feet, and in turn had Bichette showing his appreciation for the club's fan support.
This is the best this fan base, I feel like, has been for us since I've been in the big leagues, so it's been amazing. I mean, this is what I remember watching on TV when I was 17 years old at home, watching, Bautista and Donaldson and all of them. So they made it really fun to play.
Bo's saving his energy for the field there, I guess. Bichette's seventh year with the Jays. Some believe with free agency looming it could be his last. But with all the winning Toronto is finally doing, Marcy, with he and Vladdy Guerrero Jr. at the core, Bichette departure seems more unlikely than it did even a few months ago. On the topic of unlikely, the Jays looking for a sixth straight win against the rival Yankees tonight. You're a Red Sox fan too, right?
I am a Red Sox fan.
So beating the Yankees is just a good thing. Whoever's doing it. Yeah, we all appreciate that. And a record-extending 12th straight victory in the offing at the Sky Dome if they can do it. So, okay, Blue Jays, indeed. Let's take a look quickly at local ball. The American Association All-Star Game goes today, Marcy. The Gold Eyes have 3 participants. First baseman Matthew Workington. He'll start for the Western Division All-Stars. Pitchers Mitch Lamston and Tasker Strobel will be available out of the bullpen. First pitch at noon.
Let's move to football now and an NFL story that many are not okay with.
Yeah, it surrounds the Washington Commanders, Marcy. Formerly known as the Redskins, the team's name was changed a few years ago following pressure by sponsors and critics who felt it was racist. Donald Trump is not one of those people. The U.S. president is threatening to hold up a deal for a new stadium in D.C. unless the team changes its name back. Trump compares the situation to that of baseball's Cleveland Guardians.
They changed the name of the Cleveland Indians. Why would you take the name Indians off the Cleveland Indians? And now it's called the Cleveland something else. It just doesn't make sense to me. So we're about bringing common sense back to this country. And it may be popular or unpopular what I'm saying, and I think most people agree with me.
The Cleveland Guardians, Marcy, saw their moniker change for similar reasons to the Washington Commanders, namely that Native Americans don't want to be equated with mascots or cartoonish representations. The National Congress of American Indians, the U.S.'s largest, oldest, and most representative group, has been working since the 1950s to eradicate Native-themed mascots from sports. Meantime, with their new stadium now in flux, the Washington Commanders begin training camp today.
Now to the other kind of football now, where a big day is going to be happening at the European Championships.
Yeah, England and Italy playing for a spot in the final, Marcy. It would be quite a feat for the Italians, having to overcome sexism and institutional barriers. They've only had a pro women's league in that country for 3 years. By comparison, England's had one for 14 years. It's part of the reason they're the reigning Euro champions. But they've had their share of challenges along the way as well. Defender Lucy Braun says the bigger women's footy becomes, the more players are having to deal with abusive behavior. Braun's comments come after teammate Jess Carter revealed that she has been receiving racist messages throughout these Euros.
The social media platforms need to be held accountable more so. People need to be held accountable for their actions, whether it's in person or online. The abuse is not okay, racism is not okay. I think more can be done and more should be done. And especially those individuals as well, they shouldn't be allowed to just sit at home, write whatever they want and just go on with their lives. They should be held accountable, and I think there's more that we can be done.
Many sports people, Marcy, are advocating for ID verification being part of social media platforms like X so that there's more accountability for comments made online. In the meantime, Bronze and the rest of her English teammates say they will not be taking a knee. That's been an anti-racism gesture throughout world footy for a couple of years now, but they say it doesn't seem to be working, so they're going to stop as of today doing it. 2 o'clock Central Time, England versus Italy.
All right, thanks a lot. Scott, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
With CBC Sports on Information Radio, that is Scott Regehr live. Well, coming up, speaking of summer and humidity, I mentioned it's sticky out there ahead of rain that is moving our way and just starting here in Winnipeg. What comes to mind when you hear the ice cream truck in the summer? We're going to take you to a beautiful little cute story. A trio of siblings in Transcona, they're trying to do good in the world by selling one frozen treat at a time. So that story is coming up after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Lauren Donnelly in Winnipeg at 7:30. It's 16 degrees, mostly cloudy at the airport. Showers or thunderstorms ending this afternoon, smoky and windy with a high of 21 degrees. Elizabeth Patrick has more questions than answers after learning her estranged father's grave was empty. Patrick was planning to relocate her father's grave from Green Acres near Winnipeg to a cemetery in Ontario. SCI, the company that owns Green Acres, says it purchased the cemetery in the 2000s. It says the records passed down to them might be inaccurate. Patrick says that's not a good excuse.
They're now trying to say, well, the records are old and we didn't own the cemetery then. Well, you know what, you merged with two companies, so you took responsibility for the records maybe being incorrect, maybe not.
Patrick's father was a veteran in an unmarked grave. He won't qualify for a military headstone without remains, but Patrick is working with a veteran charity to get him a memorial. RCMP are now involved and say they have used ground-penetrating radar several times at the site. With wildfires inching closer to the town of Leaf Rapids, community members are worried they won't have anything to return to. Irvin Biggity manages the town's co-op. He's also helped to coordinate local firefighting efforts. He says with no local leadership, residents are being forgotten.
There's currently no mayor and council. There's no government body in charge other than the provincial government and the company that's in charge. Who's supposed to take care of us when this is all over? If we have no homes to go to, who are we supposed to go to?
Leaf Rapids has been without a mayor or council since 2019. The town is run by an administrator appointed by the province. More than 300 residents were evacuated from the community earlier this month due to wildfires. As of yesterday, the closest fire was just 4 kilometers from the community. BC Premier David Eby says American leaders have very little awareness of how offensive their remarks are to Canadians. Eby was reacting to comments made by U.S. President Donald Trump and the new U.S. ambassador to Canada.
At the leadership levels, there's very little awareness. The ambassador specifically said that Canadians were mean and nasty for not buying American alcohol and for boycotting the U.S. in terms of travel. And at the same time, do they think that Canadians are not going to respond when the president says, I want to turn you into the 51st state?
Canada is trying to negotiate a new trade deal with the U.S. ahead of an August 1st deadline. Later today, Prime Minister Mark Carney will give the premiers an update on trade talks at a meeting in Huntsville, Ontario. Winnipeggers may soon notice some new traffic calming curbs on their commute. 13 temporary concrete curbs will be placed near schools and dense residential areas. The city says this is being done to reduce safety risks and minimize conflict on the road. Councillor Janice Lukes is chair of the Public Works Committee. She says the new curbs are just one way for the city to slow down persistently speeding drivers.
We're an older city, increasing our population, we're densifying our cities, but people still seem to drive fast. I really wish people would just slow down and become more observant of what's around them. It will save everyone money, and it will save lives.
The curbs are expected to be installed next month. And finally, some parents in Winnipeg are cautiously watching weather conditions as smoke continues to roll into the city from nearby wildfires. Neil Hippolito says he wants his young kids to be able to make the most of their short summer break, but he also doesn't want them to possibly end up in the hospital because of smoke exposure.
Sometimes, like, those levels isn't that high, but when you try to go outside, it has a different feeling, right? So it all depends on, how thick that smoke is.
A number of outdoor events were canceled over the weekend due to poor air quality. Hippolito says wildfire smoke is part of a new reality for parents, and he hopes in the future it doesn't stop kids from playing outside altogether. That is your CBC News from Winnipeg.
All right, thanks, Lauren.
You're welcome.
Let's get into the forecast now with Abby Adiyemi.
Good morning. Air quality warning remains in effect across all of northern Manitoba this morning, from Flin Flon, the Pas to Thompson, Gillam, Lynn Lake, and even Churchill. We're looking at smoke really causing very poor air quality and low visibility in many of these areas. Now, the air quality and health index is around 10 in Sport, and that's considered a very high health risk to people in that region. So I'd advise limit time outdoors and seek medical help if needed. In the southern part of the province, Winnipeg 19 degrees right now, partly cloudy skies. Showers and thunderstorms will come in at some point, but that should taper off during your lunch break. We're looking at 15 millimeters of rain once the system comes through the city, and then smoke will move in at some point in the afternoon, reducing the air quality for the city. We're going to see highs around 21. It's going to be the winds from the north that would bring that smoke towards the city. For the Pembina Valley region, Modern, Winkler, Altoona, Morris, we're seeing similar conditions, 18 degrees. Also, rain coming your way. We're looking at 20 millimeters once the system comes through, and highs around 23 degrees. In Brandon, 16 degrees right now. We're seeing light showers there. Rain and thunderstorms will continue through the morning, then shift to cloudy skies later in the day. We have smoke drifting into the region later, high around 21 degree. Over in the Parkland region, we're looking at Dauphin, Minnedosa, Russell, and Roblin. We're seeing temperatures around 16, 17 degrees right now. Light rain also falling in that part of the province. Expect cloudy skies at some point, and then the showers will return. It's going to be more like on and off. The winds would definitely come from the south, and smoke in that region will linger through the day. Temperatures will be warming up close to 23 degrees. Gimli's at 17 right now. Skies are mostly cloudy. We're expecting showers in the Interlake region. Temperatures will warm to 22 degrees. Then in the northern part of the province, where we have that smoke, the Pas, Flin Flon, nearby areas, only 12 degrees now. Wildfire smoke is really thick in that part of the province. Air quality is very poor, and this smoke is going to continue all day and even into tomorrow. We're still going to feel the smoke in that area. So I'd advise you to limit your time outside. Temperatures only get to 19 degrees for that region. Then up north, 10 degrees, also smoky in Thompson at this time. Conditions will stay hazy all day, and the smoke will continue to impact Thompson and nearby region, even into Gillam. Churchill 13 also, smoke in that part of the province. That should lift this morning. Then we'll see a mix of sun and clouds in Churchill. Temperatures will get to 17. So it's more like warm and unsettled across the province this morning. Smoky in the north, and damp and rain will be coming to the southern part of the province. 19 degrees we're seeing across board.
All right, let's check the commute with Sierra next.
Good morning. Not too much developing out there on your commute right now. But again, I'll remind folks as we get into the peak of the commute here this morning, Portage Avenue East, there's a closure there, so all eastbound and westbound lanes of Portage Avenue East between Main Street to West Brook Street will be closed for water work until August 4th. There will be one eastbound lane open, so there will be a way to get around there, but expect delays as it's not open to its usual capacity, and use an alternate route if that is on your main commute there. If there is anything else slowing you down out there, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Sierra.
Thank you.
You're listening to CBC's Information Radio. My name is Marcy Marcusa. Thanks so much for being along with us this morning. Well, as we mentioned, it's going to be muggy, a little bit rainy here, but we in between the raindrops, we've had this hot, sticky weather, and that might make you think of something cool, like ice cream. What comes to mind when you hear the ice cream truck in the summertime? Do you remember asking your parents for a little bit of cash when you heard that truck coming down the street blaring its tune? Well, here's a bit of nostalgia for you up next on the show. A trio of siblings in Transcona have started up something called the Tiptop Popsicle Shop. They say they're doing this not just for money, but to learn important life lessons while helping others. They're three brothers, they ride their bikes, they haul a freezer full of popsicles to this tune, The Ragtime Entertainer by Scott Joplin. CBC's Jim Agapito had a chance to meet them.
I'm 11 years old, turning 12. This is for that long. I turn around a bike. It all started off when we saw a video of a Dickie D bike. And we decided, well, this looks fun, and we want to bring it back to the world. We bought the freezer and a trailer, and we started putting it together. Our mom bought the popsicles, we paid off our IOU. And so, yeah, that's how we got it.
What flavor of Crush would you like? My name is Micah. I'm 13 years old.
Cart looks like a trailer on with a freezer inside of it and some wood boards because the freezer's width is different than the trailer. And we have their signs on magnetic boards in a plastic case. And there's a sign that says cash only with an umbrella just over here. And our sign in the back says Tiptop Pop Shop. We also have a calculator on the top and a little menu for us to just know about the prices. And it's been good. Cash only sign, and then an umbrella which has mini popsicles on the top. I did the designing and I painted it. We got this from Michael's, and we just put based off the hats and the sign are colors of the whole bike.
I see that because you all have different outfits. Can you describe for me what everyone's wearing right now?
Our outfits are a hat that says Tiptop Popsicle Shop, a yellow shirt with dip dye, I just haven't worn one yet, and blue shorts, blue cargo shorts, and it makes it our colors, yellow, orange, and blue.
My name is Malachi. I am 14 years old.
A freezer on a cart. Whose idea was to do that?
That was our parents' idea. We thought that would be the best go-to for this and probably the most affordable as well.
Okay, so who does what in the business?
I talked to the owners to see where we should go and where to sit and do the stuff. Malachi,
I drive the bike and I take care of the money from the people and just related stuff to that.
I make all the signs and the digital art, and I give people popsicles, and I'm just there every single time.
Also, I punch the punch cards.
You punch the punch cards. Okay, tell me about the punch cards.
These are buy 10, get 1 free, freezy for free. Duh.
What do your neighbors think of all of this?
They think it's great to support a business.
They're happy for us and very supportive of us.
Lucky, what do you say?
What are people buying?
Well, people are always buying these firecrackers because A, it brings nostalgia, and B, it's just one of the most cheapest, best flavors in the middle. And dealing with popsicles is fun because I get to break them in half and all that and then hand them to the people. And they're just happy to see the actual popsicle.
Is there anything else that you're doing with the money? I mean, like say, yeah?
We're supporting big families by giving them some portions of money to help them out with food or a new vehicle or stuff to help them out in life.
And why did you guys want to do that? Why was that important?
Because people need help in this world even if they don't want to admit it. And we're just happy to help out whenever.
What do your parents think about this? I mean,
they trust us a lot with how we handle this, and so I guessing when they decided we're gonna get your business started because we feel like this is gonna actually work, they trust us to pay back and continue forward with the business.
But there's more than just money. There's skills. There's growth in friendship and relationship. There's growth in some good things that happen in life.
The business has a jingle, but the boys over there wearing the hats don't want to sing it, correct?
Yes, definitely not.
but we know that there's branding.
Yes.
You need to sing the jingle. Could you sing the jingle for us?
All right.
Well, you got the hat on now.
Yeah.
Okay, sing the jingle.
Dip, top, popsicle shop. Dip, top, popsicle shop. Dip, top, popsicle shop. I said dip, top, popsicle shop.
They're so cute in their little yellow and aqua hats out there in Transcona on their bikes. Have a look for those guys. CBC Jim Agapito speaking there with Hannah Malachi and Micah Jingra. They're the owners of the Tiptop Popsicle Shop here in Winnipeg. And as I mentioned, they will be mostly doing their work in Transcona.
Breaking tonight. Every day.
The tariffs are very good. They're very powerful.
Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves.
We bring context to chaos.
What are the consequences of this action?
We must retaliate.
In our own backyard.
Come on! Plane crash!
And beyond our borders.
It's the scene of an airstrike.
You're gambling with World War III.
Negotiations are ongoing.
From the source you can trust. It's time to dig deeper into the story. The National, Canada's newscast. Tonight on CBC.
7:45 a.m. is the time right now. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Still ahead, we're going to have a conversation about housing. The mayor of the city of Winnipeg was on Friday on Information Radio here on CBC talking about his concerns that housing can't be built fast enough to deal with the houselessness problem that we have in the city and in the province. So we're going to hear a little bit more on that. We have a bit of a follow-up to that story. Right now, though, we've got one eye on what's happening. We may bring up a live stream, actually, if our premier comes to the microphone. The premiers now are weighing in ahead of another day of meetings. Right now, Scott Moe, the Premier of Saskatchewan, is speaking, and they are gathered in Huntsville, Ontario, as you might know. They're meeting face-to-face this week, and today Prime Minister Mark Carney is going to join that meeting. The big focus is internal trade and on Canada-U.S. trade talks. Carney has suggested it's unlikely that Canada will make a deal with the U.S. without it involving some tariffs. Now, on Power and Politics, the CBC's David Cochrane spoke with David McNaughton. He is a former Canadian ambassador to the United States. And here's part of their conversation where McNaughton suggests that a, quote, good deal may not be possible by August 1st.
So you're here to provide advice and insight. What is your sense of where things are leading into August 1?
Well, you know, I think that some progress has been made. Certainly on this side of the border, I think we have got our act together a lot more than we have before. And I think seeing the premiers working together and working with the Prime Minister and, you know, reaching out to the Indigenous community and everything, and these are all positive things. I think Donald Trump is feeling pretty cocky right now, full of himself, thinks he's got everybody coming to him. And so I think you can hope for a deal, right? But I think you shouldn't. We shouldn't plan on a deal. I think we got to be, because you can always get a deal, but you want to get a good deal, and that's the problem.
Well, yeah, this is the challenge, right? And getting our act together as a country, I take your point. It was very kind of scattershot in the early days, with people thinking there's a magical threshold of appeasement that would make it all go away. But there's kind of a, I don't know if it's a grim reality, but a sobering reality that seems to be setting in with, like, the Prime Minister's comments last week and a lot of the premiers now, that no one's been able to get a deal that didn't include some baseline of tariffs. I mean, do you just think that's just where this is going to land?
You know, I hope not. I mean, I guess from my perspective, the two things, regardless of what the tariff level will be or won't be, you can't have a situation where he can use 232 or IEPA at his will. So what good is it to have a deal that has minimal tariffs when tomorrow he could decide, well, no, I don't like that. I'm going to actually say Canada's imports of softwood lumber or steel or whatever are a national security threat, and I'm going to put more tariffs on. So I think we've got to deal with that, and I think, we can't panic. I know it's hurting a lot of businesses and hurting a lot of people, but I think it's really good to, first of all, do some of the things we're doing in terms of diversifying our markets and also getting some U.S. businesses to understand that they do actually depend on the Canadian market and get them to speak up to the president and stuff like that. So it may take a while.
It may take a while. So, August, you had said today, July 21st, was supposed to be Retaliation Day. If the deadline of July 16th wasn't met, obviously no deal. The new target date that the president has set is the 1st of August. What are your thoughts looking at that date?
Again, I think it's you can hope for the best but plan for the worst and be ready if in fact we don't have a deal on August the 1st and there are additional tariffs put in place or whatever. But I am skeptical as to whether or not we can get a really good deal by August the 1st. I think it's going to take time.
So that was David McNaughton, the former Canadian ambassador to the United States, talking with David Cochrane, who is on live. I'm just watching, the Premier's meeting live out of one corner of my eye. David McNaughton in conversation with CBC's David Cochrane, who is covering the Premier's meeting, and the Prime Minister going to be there today as well, live. So you can watch it at CBC at starting at 4 o'clock here local time on CBC Newsnet. They're live streaming some of the things that are happening ahead of the meeting this morning already, and that's what we've been watching. CBC with full coverage as the different premiers are signing memorandums of understanding and different agreements. You might recall that yesterday at the premier's meeting, Premier of Manitoba, Wab Kinew, signed his memoranda of understanding with counterparts in Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, British Columbia, and Prince Edward Island. So we'll hear more about the meeting coming up at 8 o'clock here on World Report.
It's an honor to have you at the White House.
The stories that matter.
The opportunity is in the partnership.
As they happen.
There are some places that are never for sale.
And what they mean to you.
But never say never. Never say never.
For news you can trust, stay with CBC News.
So the premiers of Ontario, Alberta, and Saskatchewan just signed a memorandum of understanding on energy and trade. So that's what we'll get more details on. That's just live right now on CBC. It's 9 minutes to 8 o'clock. Let's turn our attention now to civic politics here. Winnipeg's been adopting various approaches to end homelessness. Since January, overall, Manitoba has been working under this Your Way Home strategy. It's supposed to move people from encampments to a supportive housing. It's a take on the Housing First model. It found success, that model, in Houston, Texas, where the number of unhoused people was reduced by 62% in just 10 years. Mayor Scott Gillingham was even there. He went down there in 2023 to see the model in action with a delegation of others from Manitoba, other leaders. Now, Mayor Gillingham, though, was on Information Radio here on CBC on Friday, and he said he's frustrated right now by the lack of progress when it comes to housing people in encampments.
I'm not satisfied with the speed at which we're getting housing made available. We need housing so people have a place to move from encampment into housing with wraparound supports. And I'm frustrated with how long it's taking. It's frustrating to see, days go by and months go by without the kind of progress that we really want to see. So what needs to happen, though, the frustration is around the lack of housing units available. If we don't have housing units available and you move people around, you're just pushing encampments from one neighborhood to the other.
Pardon me, I of course misspoke there. He's frustrated, as you can hear, by the lack of progress when it comes to finding housing for people who are living in encampments. Well, Samson Barris is with us this morning, founder and CEO of Pathways Housing First Institute. He's responsible for creating the Housing First model back in 1992. He is in Houston, and we wanted to reach him because we wanted to find out if they had any trouble when they were going through their improvements. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be
I want to ask you something here because we've really been into this and following somewhat in the footsteps of your model, but we've got all levels of government here on board, federal, provincial, civic. There's been some red tape that's cut. There's money there. You just heard our mayor saying that, we can't get the housing stock online fast enough. Did you struggle with similar things where you are or not?
Yes, that's fundamental problem in homelessness. And I just wanted to correct, I'm not in Houston, I'm actually in Los Angeles,
Oh,
which
pardon
is
me.
the epicenter of homelessness in the United States. And many cities are using the approach of getting people out of encampments and into housing. And I think that's a great first step. The challenge is what happens to people once they are housed. The mayor is talking about the difficulty of access to housing immediately. And that is fundamentally a financial problem. It's a question of, is there enough rent subsidy to be able to secure a unit that's on the open market?
So you're talking about moving people into units that they could readily rent right now, and the mayor is saying that we don't have enough spaces to begin with. Does money solve everything? And if so, how do you convince developers to get in on this?
I think it's a question of you mentioned that Houston took 10 years. There have to be multiple strategies at the same time. For the people that are literally on the streets, living in encampments, the existing rental market, should we be able to have people who help those in the encampments be represented to landlords with sufficient, rent subsidy, first month's security, first month's rent, a guarantee of support for the tenant once they move in is also essential, so that the landlord is willing to take the risk to house someone without a credit history and coming in with that difficult background. So once that happens, you can reduce the number of people on the street quite quickly. The long-term solution, though, building more social housing, more affordable housing, is what will actually end homelessness. Because what we don't see when we take someone off the street, we can take 100 people off the streets of Winnipeg today, but in 2 months, another 100 people will fall into homelessness. So that what I would like to make clear is that homelessness is not a static number. It's not a pool of people that exists today. Because of the high cost of rent, the lack of affordability, some discriminatory and racist practices in renting, because 70% of the people who are homeless in Winnipeg are Indigenous. So there's something structural going on there. And once you build the affordable housing long-term, you'll be able to accommodate or stop the people falling into housing. So we have to end it for the people that are on the streets now and stop it for the people who are falling in.
It's interesting because we have a lot of conversations about this, and when it goes back to the bottom line and the funding that's coming from the feds, it's about building that new housing stock for people to get into, as you're saying, those longer term solutions. But you brought up something that we haven't talked a great deal about here in Winnipeg, at least, which is the role of landlords. How critical is that in the short term to seeing some solutions before we can get the housing starts built?
I think both the private landlords and the social housing landlords are essential to ending short-term homelessness quickly. Landlords are the essential partners.
In your work, given that you were on the ground doing the groundwork of these models going back many years, I know you're in LA now, but you're involved in Houston earlier. In your work, what was the nature of the conversations with the landlords versus the developers and getting them on board with this?
Yeah, well, the landlords needed both the guarantee of the continued rent, which a government program can provide, which is very appealing to landlords from an economic perspective. But they also wanted to know that there would be case management support services so that if there was any issue with the tenant, there was someone they could call to help them with that. One of the key factors for the success in Houston and other cities like Milwaukee, for example, where they had very good success in getting people off the streets, was it wasn't just the landlords, it was also the police, it was the courts, it was the business community, it was other services that work with homeless people, everybody getting on the same page about what we're going to do. We're not going to arrest people. We're not going to move them to other places. We're going to take this housing first approach, which is what it's called, the providing housing immediately with the supports. And there's lots of good Housing First programs in Winnipeg right now. But you take that Housing First approach, not as a program, but as a community. These are our people, our citizens. We all have the same plan, often led by the mayor. And I'm very happy to hear the mayor is frustrated with the pace, because that means the mayor is engaged and wants to see progress. And I think progress is possible on a citywide partnership. And we're all of us looking to house people, not move them along, not shelter them forever, not arrest them, but put them in housing with supports.
Thank you very much for walking us through some of the understanding of this in a deeper way. Appreciate it a lot, Sam.
Happy to be with you.
That is live with us via Zoom, Sam Simbaris, the founder and CEO of Pathways Housing First Institute. Now, we did ask the province for an update on the number of people housed under Your Way Home and the strategy so far. A spokesperson said, quote, the province is currently compiling data from partners and will provide an update in the coming days. With quick headlines, here's Lauren Donnelly.
Good morning. Tatasqueyak Cree Nation has a working water plant, but members can't return home just yet. The community is still under an evacuation order due to wildfires. We'll have more local news coming up after World Report.
Thanks, Lauren. In fact, north there is a smoke warning. South, we're going to see rain. Stay with us. World Report is next.
Today on Q.
Hey, I'm Ali Hassan in for Tom Power. Country music superstar Blake Shelton is back with a brand new album, his first in 4 years. He'll be here to tell you about falling out of love with making music and fighting burnout after spending 23 seasons as a coach on The Voice.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Pia Chattopadhyay. Shark Week on television has become a summer tradition, but some experts say the on-screen portrayals have left us with a warped view of the sharp-toothed animals. A defense of sharks coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Canada's premiers are trying to protect their economies from U.S. tariffs and find ways to make Canada less reliant on trade with our neighbours to the south. They will discuss their latest plans with Prime Minister Mark Carney at a meeting today in Ontario's cottage country. But their frustration with Washington is palpable, especially after the U.S. ambassador to Canada made some comments about Canadian boycotts. The CBC's Janice McGregor is in Washington with details. And Janice, what did the ambassador say that's got people so upset?
Donald Trump's top diplomat in Canada, Pete Hoekstra, was speaking at the annual summit for business and political leaders from the Pacific Northwest Economic Region. And he said that if Canadians are staying home, that's their business. He doesn't like it, but if that's what they want to do, it's fine. He said if they want to ban American alcohol, that's fine. But what he said next suggests that maybe it's really not all that fine with him.
There are reasons why the president and some of his team refer to Canada as being mean and nasty to deal with.
BC Premier David Eby's government is a partner at this summit, and he didn't think much of that.
Do they think that Canadians are not going to respond when the president says, I want to turn you into the 51st state and beggar you economically unless you bow to the U.S.? Like, obviously, Canadians are outraged. I say Canadians stick with it.
Some U.S. Democratic senators were in Ottawa yesterday. They struck a very different tone, right?
Indeed. They weren't calling people names. They were wearing friendship bracelets that the embassy made, and they want Canadians to come back. Listen to New Hampshire Senator Maggie Hassan.
We know that the instability in our relationship right now has meant that some Canadians have decided to stay away from their favorite American tourist spots, and we hope you will come back. And it's not just that we miss your business, we miss your friendship.
Individual Canadians may wonder whether the choices they're making this summer make a difference, but collectively, this dip in tourism spending, the different drinks in Canadian glasses this summer does seem to be hurting the U.S. economy. And that turns up the heat on politicians to sort out this trade war before more businesses get hurt.
All right. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor reporting from Washington. The United States is pulling out of UNESCO. Again, the Trump administration says the United Nations Cultural Agency has an anti-Israel bias, and continued involvement is not in the national interest of the United States. UNESCO promotes world peace through international cooperation in arts and education. This is the second time the Trump administration has left the organization, and it comes just 2 years after the U.S. rejoined the agency after the first exit. The decision will take effect at the end of next year. The World Health Organization is accusing Israeli forces of attacking its facilities in Gaza. It says multiple airstrikes hit a warehouse and a staff residence. Israel's military has not commented, but the UN agency says the ground offensive in central Gaza is compromising desperately needed humanitarian support. Sasha Petrusik is in Jerusalem with the latest.
Her face is gaunt, her arms shriveled. One hungry baby in a Gaza City hospital full of malnourished children. This is famine, says the mother of a boy being fed through IV tubes. There's no milk, no food. I cannot meet my child's needs. The shortage is real but preventable, says the World Food Program. 90% of its aid trucks are being kept out of Gaza by the Israeli military, says Director Ross Smith.
The hunger crisis in Gaza has certainly reached new and astonishing levels of desperation.
Israel maintains it is allowing enough aid in. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres criticized the death of at least 85 Palestinians killed trying to get to a UN aid convoy on Sunday.
We saw yet more mass shootings and killings of people seeking UN aid for their families, an atrocious and inhumane act which I utterly condemn.
And conditions for delivering help are getting worse, say NGOs, especially since Israel launched a new ground offensive in Deir al-Balah yesterday. Mohammed Fadlallah is with Doctors Without Borders.
The people are getting squeezed and squeezed further and further into a much smaller area. Where are they going to be? They're going to have to be living on top of each other.
Aid agencies say they, too, are being squeezed out of the last humanitarian hub left in Gaza. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Officials in Bangladesh say a technical malfunction caused a training jet to crash into a school early yesterday. The aircraft was being used by the Bangladesh military. It says the pilot ran into difficulty shortly after takeoff. At least 31 people were killed. 170 others, mostly students, were injured. Saidur Rahman is the special assistant to the chief advisor on health.
Even among those in the high dependency unit, the conditions of some patients are critical. So we are going through a very difficult time as a nation. We ask everyone to keep us in their prayers.
The military says the pilot was on a routine training mission when the crash happened. Today is a national day of mourning in Bangladesh. Jasper, Alberta is marking 1 year since a wildfire tore through the town. A third of the structures were destroyed. Thousands of people were forced out of the mountain community. A year later, the municipality and Parks Canada are highlighting what they're doing to protect the national park. Julia Wong has more from Jasper.
Could we add more resources? And short answer is I don't think it would have made much of a difference.
Jasper Fire Chief Matthew Conti believes crews did everything they could to protect the town during last year's destructive wildfire. About 1/3 of the buildings in Jasper burned down. Nearly 1 year later, Conti says residents seem to be taking fire prevention more seriously. He says about 30 home assessments have been done in the last 2 months.
People want to comply. They want to know what they need to do.
Out in Jasper's backyard,
this is really actually very intensive work.
Parks Canada is working to reduce the wildfire risk around the community. Dave Argument is a resource conservation manager.
The heavy equipment will come in and actually selectively remove the trees that we've asked them to target. And then we leave behind a lot of the coarse woody debris on the landscape as well, which helps with moisture retention.
But Argument warns there is no magic bullet to keeping the community safe.
We can cut all the trees we want here, and we still won't entirely ensure the safety of town. Fire smarting and community protection is a whole bunch of layers of steps that have to be taken.
Steps residents of this town won't be taking for granted as they try and move forward from last year's devastation. Julia Wong, CBC News, Jasper, Alberta.
RCMP in Eastern Alberta are warning the public to be careful about what they say online about the federal by-election. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is running for a seat in the House of Commons. More than 100 candidates have registered to run against him. And RCMP say several candidates have reported potentially threatening comments on social media. The Mounties are reminding the public threats to cause bodily harm or property damage are a criminal offense. Beekeepers in New Brunswick say they're facing a challenge. Their honeybee populations are dwindling, and as Hope Edmund reports, the loss of the hives is also affecting provincial food production.
Nathan Much carefully opens his hives. Beekeeping in the northern New Brunswick city of Miramichi is his livelihood. He's still trying to recover from the winter, when only one of his 60 hives survived.
It was incredibly depressing because we love our bees just like they're our pets.
Much rents his bees to blueberry producers for pollination. He says the loss has cost him $50,000.
Sort of a double-edged sword because you're losing out on the pollination money, plus you're having to put all this money back into buying bees.
It's not just happening in New Brunswick. Statistics Canada data from 2024 found that honey production dropped across the country by 18%. Experts cite different reasons.
We're still missing thousands and thousands of hives to be able to pollinate everything.
Pascal Michaud assesses hive and honeybee health in the province. She says varroa mites are killing bees.
If we keep losing 30 to 50% of our hives each year, it's a big stressor on the beekeepers, of course, but really on everyone because it's directly tied to food securities.
Kashal Rathanaik is a pollination biologist at the University of New Brunswick. He says climate change has caused a global decline in bee populations.
They cannot withstand our long winters or the high temperature.
Much is calling for more funding to help beekeepers recover from large losses. Hope Edmund, CBC News, Fredericton.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
A little bit of rain falling in South Winnipeg. We're going to get a lot more all over the city and all over the south today. Smoke is the story to the north. Thanks for joining us. It's Tuesday morning. I'm Marcy Marcusa. And you're listening to Information Radio. Great to be back with you here on CBC, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Well, speaking of that smoke, we've talked a lot about the short-term health effects of smoke, but what about the long-term impact on your health and on the health of especially young people in your life, little ones? Stay tuned. We're going to have that discussion this half hour on Information Radio. Also, something fun that you might have noticed if you've been on Roblin Boulevard, there's bisons there. Bisons on the boulevard, a whole bunch of them. Okay, they're not living bisons. Don't stress out. In case you're out and about driving or walking thinking, what? But they do exist, and you might want to go take a selfie with them. I'm going to explain why this half hour. Stay tuned for that. It's just a fun summer interview coming up. Right now, though, let's get to what's happening in the news. Lauren Donnelly is in for Heather Wells this morning and has headlines.
Good morning. With wildfires just several kilometers away from their community, evacuees from Leaf Rapids are anxiously waiting to see what will happen. We'll have the latest from that story. And Winnipeggers may soon notice some new traffic calming measures on their commute. 13 temporary concrete curbs will be placed near schools and dense residential areas. The city says this is being done to reduce safety risks and minimize conflict on the road. We'll have more on that coming up at 8:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Lauren.
You're welcome.
Did I just say bisons instead of bison, Abby? I hope I didn't do that.
Bison.
Yeah, I know what it's supposed to be. But, sometimes you're live and you're looking around and you're like, what came out of my mouth just
A lot of them.
Right? There are a lot of them. All right, let's get into what's actually happening in the forecast. It started raining in places?
Yep, I can see the rain already. A lot of rain in Verdun right now. Brandon is seeing rain. Swan Lake, we have rain there spreading all the way towards Steinbach and heading towards Kenora right now. By, I think, between 9 o'clock and 12, that's when we're going to get that rain hit the city because it's already moving in. So around 9 o'clock, and don't forget the umbrella this morning. Smoke is still a concern up north. The whole of the north under this air quality warning impacting regions from the Par all the way to Churchill, and that smoke is going to be stretching all into tomorrow. Right now, Winnipeg, 18 degrees, partly cloudy skies, showers and thunderstorms coming in, and by lunch break, that should fade off, but we're expecting about 15 to 20 millimeters of rain possible before it clears. We have mist in Dauphin and we have rain in Brandon at this time. Up north, we're seeing temperatures between 12 and 14 degrees, and most of the regions will be seeing temperatures close to 20 degrees today.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's get into the morning commute, which had been quiet before 8. What's going on now, Sierra?
Still not too much developing right now. No calls on the commuter line this morning, so things are moving smoothly along out there. But if that is not the case and there's something getting in your way, we still have a little bit of time left in the show. Whether you are here in the city or out on the highways, you can give me a call if something's getting in your way. That number is 204-788-3093.
Well, for years, as you likely know, climate experts have warned that hot, hazy, and fiery summers would be the new normal. And now it seems a once distant warning of climate disaster to come is something we are facing down. So this summer, it's been almost impossible to escape the wildfires in this province. And here in southern Manitoba, where we're not, we're lucky enough not to be evacuated from our homes and communities, we are dealing with a lot of smoke. Now, we know it impacts our health. We've talked about short-term impacts, but what about the next generation? What about the long-term health impacts? Dr. Anna Guns is with us, an environmental health pediatrician and a Western University professor. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what are the long-term impacts of smoke? Are they more of the same? Like when we talk short-term impacts, we're talking maybe throat scratchiness, perhaps migraines being triggered. What about long-term?
The way I think about wildfire smoke, and it's actually similar with extreme heat as well as air pollution, is I think of lung, brain, and heart. So there are impacts in all of those three areas. And I think the other piece is when we talk about long-term, I think most of the time people are thinking about sort of long exposure cumulative effects. And so some of this, obviously, we don't know yet from wildfires, but what we do know from the long-term data, we're talking about multiple years of exposure. So that's one aspect. But the other way I think of in terms of as a pediatrician and someone who sees children with complex illnesses and chronic diseases is, long-term can also be a lasting impact from an acute event. And so I wanted to mention that as well, particularly as you mentioned, these evacuees in the north. So for example, it seems like exposure to wildfire smoke can affect prenatal outcomes, including low birth weight and potentially prematurity. We know that is the case with air pollution, which also includes stillbirth. And then if you add heat on top of that, we know low birth weight and preterm are health outcomes associated with that. And you might think of that's a short-term outcome. But we know that there are long-term health consequences that these infants now are at risk of. And the other big one is mental health. So, there are long-term consequences, particularly mental health consequences around evacuation, community rebuilding. And there was a really good study in Alberta that even looked at a year after an evacuation in one community versus another. When they looked at youth, they saw lasting impacts a year later, including mental health, including things like their own self-esteem. So that is one sort of aspect about long-term that I think we don't necessarily always see, as well as these other long-term effects that I can obviously talk about.
So I wanted to stop you there because it's interesting. I thought you were going to finish a sentence one way and you went another way. I thought you were going to say in terms of long-term mental health aspects that anxiety was going to be heightened because if you think going back to a community that you would have maybe felt safe in your whole life, and then all of a sudden maybe you're concerned, right? Will another fire come? Will this happen again? Like those are anxious things. But you said long-term impacts due to fires, and you cited some studies around mental health and said that it was around self-esteem. Can you elaborate on what you mean by that?
Oh, there was a number of different mental health measures that they looked at. And so they looked at depression and anxiety and substance use. And self-esteem and quality of life. And to my recollection, I believe it's actually, I think, lower on the anxiety. I may be wrong on that, but definitely depression as well as quality of life. So it's to say that, beyond people think about PTSD and depression and anxiety, but it's more than that, right? It's their experience and their quality of life that's been affected even 1 year later. And so that's one of the things that I'm very interested in, is I think there's like these obvious direct things that we can see and understand, but there's also these sort of more indirect pieces that people aren't necessarily aware of. And that also is the acute and long-term effects, and why there's brain and lung heart effects as well. So when we're thinking about communities and supporting youth and supporting each other, it's a really pervasive and serious, effect on a human, on an individual.
Let's turn back to some of the physical effects and long-term impacts. I wonder how heat and humidity factor into the danger of wildfire smoke.
So we know that heat has individual effects on health. Extreme heat in terms of mental health, hard cardiovascular outcomes like heart attack and stroke, and even breathing problems, pneumonia, etc. And those mirror what we see with wildfire smoke as well. And when you have heat, you end up also getting secondary air pollutants that are being created, like ozone. So it worsens the air quality. And on top of that, you have your body and your cardiovascular system and your respiratory system is already stressed. So there has been less studies that have coupled them both, but there is, this general understanding that those two together, multiply risk, as well as if you don't have air conditioning and the air quality is poor outside, but it's hot in your house, you're making a decision between opening your window or closing it and with air filters inside. So it becomes very complicated. And when we look at these long-term effects, what we've seen, what the data is starting to show is certainly, especially for people who are closer to wildfires, there's some studies in Alberta looking at wildfire smoke and rates of cancer, including brain cancer in youth. There's new evidence that suggests that, especially in some populations, there might be a higher risk of dementia. And that also is mirrored if you look at the long-term air pollution data as well as this question about mortality. So breathing problems, respiratory problems, and so then death, unfortunately, translates into a long-term condition as well. So and the rest we'll see with time. I think what people don't necessarily realize is it's not just these larger particles that we're smelling or seeing or that are irritating our larger airways, but you also have these tiny particles that go through into our lungs and into our bloodstream, and that causes different immune and inflammatory reactions and even stress on our blood vessels. So when we think about, our children, and us right now as a population are getting exposed regularly now to these very intense periods of high toxicants with breathing, as well as extreme heat. And so when we think about our blood vessels and the damage and the stress that they're having, I'm very worried as a mother, as well as a pediatrician, about what that is going to mean for kids moving forward.
What do, just last, obviously, we're talking about the bigger issues, we're talking about policy change, climate change, all of those things are in the bigger picture. But I mean, even in the short term and even in, maybe a little bit of long term in the summers we have coming up, the rest of this summer, the years ahead, what would your advice be to parents who might be trying to plan for what might be an inevitable future dealing with smoke, which is fairly new in our province, especially I'm speaking from a southern perspective now. But I mean, having these air quality statements and even being here in Winnipeg, where we're not in the heart of the worst of it, it's still really bad. So I'm thinking about the people that are going to be up north and I can't even imagine their health. But how do you move forward knowing that you can't do anything about this and yet you still want the kids to be outside? What's your advice?
Yeah, that's something I struggle with as a parent too. And I was doing work in this area, and really, because the biggest, highest risk patients are people who need puffers, like kids with asthma. And so there was a number of things that I'll mention, but I was doing this for kind of other people's kids. And then this year, my daughter now has asthma and is having a hard time playing. And I'm pulling her out of games and soccer, which is her passion, and wondering about whether I can ever get her to play again because of this repeatedness. And I live in Southern Ontario, right? So I think that, there's a few things. Number one is policy. So what parents can do is write a letter to your MP, your MPP, as well as your municipal regional representatives and say that this is of concern to you, because that is like the number one thing everyone can do. The second thing is that we've been trying to, and we're putting groups together to talk about where and involve youth. Where are youth? Where do they experience and where are they involved in their community? And then we need to find ways to protect them at a system level. So, having heat and smoke days for sports. We shouldn't be putting young people in situations which are dangerous. We need to be thinking about playgrounds. We need to be thinking about camps and ways for kids to be outside and play and enjoy their life, but also be safe. And so how can we create flexibility for them? And then I think the final piece is, around having air filters in your rooms, especially where they're sleeping. And you can create cheap DIY ones. And, cleaning the air that way. But at the end of the day, kids do need to be outside. They do need to play. And the final piece from mental health, so we prescribe nature. In our program, we have a land-based healing, nature for healing program. Mind, body, environment, the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink, it becomes part of us. It's our most personal environment. And we evolve in this environment. And so our connection with nature, an intentional connection with nature, we know, Indigenous peoples have known, and it's, part of culture and ways of knowing. And I won't preach to that choir, but from a colonial perspective, there's so much literature as well that shows the benefits of connecting with nature.
Yeah. So the message here is not don't go outside, but be mindful.
Yeah, but you could. Yeah, and you can also connect indoors too. So we have a natureforhealing.org. We have lots of ideas about when we're connecting with nature, connect outdoors, but connect indoors. So on bad days, we can also find ways to improve our mental health.
Can you leave us with the website, just because you have a wealth of information there and a lot of good advice for parents if people want to check out? Is it simply nature.org?
It's natureforhealing.org.
Okay,
we have, we're happy to connect with everyone that way, and helping everyone connect. And we've got to lean in, and now is the time to lean in and come together in communities.
Appreciate your time.
My thoughts to everyone up north. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time today, Dr. Guns. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
That's Dr. Anna Gunn. She's the medical director of Children's Environmental Health Clinic. It is in Ontario. She's also an associate professor there at Western University. I want to briefly mention something that you're going to be able to view right now on cbc.ca/Manitoba online locally today. I want you to think about 2011, 14 years ago. And what were you doing 14 years ago? How old were your kids 14 years ago? Well, Tanya Nepanak's children were young, and today they are adults. And today they are still fighting, along with family members, to have her found. Loved ones continue to repeat calls for the province to not forget Tanya Nepanak as the Brady landfill search approaches for another missing and murdered Indigenous woman. And so I'm talking about Ashley Shingoose, and she was a victim of Jeremy Skibitsky, and they will be searching Brady landfill. But Tanya Nepanak, originally from Pine Creek First Nation, has been missing, as I mentioned, since 2011. Sean Lamb was charged with secondary murder in her death in 2012. And the family is hoping that they will be looking at Brady landfill for a search again. But the video that I'm talking about is 7 minutes long, and it compiles our CBC News footage and coverage from all these many years, hearing from the family members and loved ones of Tanya Nepanak. And they say they are really hoping that something is going to happen, and a search will begin for her once again. So if you want to read about that, and if you want to see that, it's really impactful, and you can check it out online at cbc.ca/Manitoba. It is right now 8:27 a.m. It is 18 degrees in Winnipeg. There's light rain in Brandon. It's 16. That rain's going to be coming here. And it is smoky in Thompson this morning. All of the north with a smoke warning. And here in southern Manitoba, we are expecting a lot of rain. So about 15 millimeters here in Winnipeg. We could see a touch more. Our high today actually is 21. With Humidex, so it's pretty sticky. Feels like 27. Well, I don't know about you, but you might have noticed something new on Roblin Boulevard. A whole bunch of bison. Winnipegger Tom Ethans is used to boosting city morale. As the executive director of Take Pride Winnipeg, he encourages communities to help keep the city clean. But this summer, he wants you to take pride in a different way. His organization has teamed up with the Toba Centre. They're running a summer-long selfie competition. To compete, you need your cell phone and you need to be by one of these bisons on the boulevard I'm mentioning. So, Tom, for those who haven't seen these bisons, how many of them are there? And can you describe, a few of them? I think they're really cool.
There's 26 bison that have been painted by local artists, and they're so beautiful, and they just tell a story, each one, and it's wonderful to see the color and vibrancy that it brings to Roblin Boulevard. And I really am impressed with what Toba Centre has done to try to get more awareness about what the Toba Centre is all about, and just to help beautify the city as well.
So what does Toba Centre do for those who don't know?
Toba Centre really is an important organization that helps children that have been abused and that have been affected by child abuse, and they're there to get the kids to be heard, helped, and healed. And it's a great organization that really is needed in this province. And we're very proud to be working with them today on this photo contest.
So 26 opportunities to take photos and support the initiative. As I mentioned, I kind of love these. I was driving. You first see them start popping up on Roblin beside the zoo. And then you're like, oh, what's that? Neat. And then all of a sudden another one and another one on the other side of the street. And they're all, as you mentioned, very colorful, very different. What are you looking for people to do when it comes to the contest? And what could they win?
Well, what we want them to do is get out of their car. I mean, I see a lot of people driving by. That's great, but we want them to get out of the car, take a close-up look at the bison, and take a look at who the artist was that did that particular bison. Take a selfie, and for every selfie of each bison, you get a chance to win a prize. And if you take 26 selfies of all 26 bison, you got 26 chances, and there's some incredible prizes that we've put together for this contest, including a one-night stay at the Lakeview Hecla Resort, a signed Adam Lowry Jets jersey, a $250 gift card to Assiniboine Park, 2 tickets to the Toba Centre's Night in Blue, and a $100 gift certificate to the Gates on Roblin, golf for 4 at Tuxedo Golf Course, and several other restaurants, George's, the Tavern on King Edward, Earl's Main, and Silver Heights have all given gift cards. And that's just fantastic because they want to help and show their appreciation for what the artists have done and for the Toba Centre. So
lastly, just briefly, leave us with the email where people can, the way that people can submit selfies.
Yeah, if you hashtag Bison on the Boulevard and tag at Toba Centre MB, at Take Pride Insta, or tag Take Pride FB. And we want to see everybody getting out there and stopping and taking pictures and really seeing what the artists have done and really helping to increase the visibility of the Toba Centre.
Thanks a lot, Tom, for telling us about it. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. So check out Take Pride Winnipeg and the Toba Centre. Use the hashtag Bisons on the Boulevard and get out there and take your selfies. Tom Ethan's the executive director at Take Pride Winnipeg, live on CBC. A little late getting to the news. It's 8:31, but your CBC News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Lauren Donnelly in Winnipeg at 8:31. It's 18 degrees and mostly cloudy at the airport. Showers or thunderstorms this afternoon, smoky and windy, a high of 21. The threat of wildfires now surrounds the town of Leaf Rapids. The closest fire is just 4 kilometers away. Irvin Biggity manages the town's co-op and is one of more than 300 residents evacuated from the community. He says with high winds and fuel in front of the flames, those on the ground are doing what they can.
They were bulldozing the back trails of the community to further create a fire break so that if the fire does reach the community, it wouldn't fully engulf the community as fast. But, probably Leaf Rapids, it was designed to be fully covered in forest.
With the fires so close to Leaf Rapids, Biggity worries there may not be anything for residents to come back home to. Wildfire smoke this summer has led to changes at Assiniboine Park Zoo's day camp. Organizers developed a policy earlier this year on what to do when air quality is too poor to spend long periods of time outside. Jody Watson with the Assiniboine Park Conservancy says it's all part of a new reality of living with smoky conditions.
If we do have a day where the air quality is poor, we're going to modify our activities. We're going to try to spend more time inside, limit the outdoor time. We've encouraged parents to provide masks for their kids. We've been providing masks for our own staff, and then we do have some that are available for campers.
Watson says about 120 kids attend camp at the zoo every week. One woman is in shock after learning her estranged father's grave is empty. Elizabeth Patrick lives in England. She spent years searching for her father, who was a Second World War veteran. Patrick learned he was buried in an unmarked grave at the Green Acres Cemetery, just outside Winnipeg. She wanted to relocate his remains to Ontario so he could be buried with a military headstone next to her son, who also served.
In order to have a last post headstone, you have to have remains, and they don't leave any soldier without a headstone. He was part of the Commonwealth. He's entitled to that. But without remains, he's not.
The RCMP is involved because the empty grave is considered a missing person. A spokesperson says police have used ground-penetrating equipment in the area multiple times, but haven't been able to locate any remains. The company that owns Green Acres told CBC it purchased the cemetery in the 2000s. It says the records passed down to them might not have been accurate. Winnipeg will soon have 13 traffic calming curbs to slow speeding drivers in some areas of the city. The city says they'll be placed near schools and dense residential areas. Councillor Janice Lukes is chair of the Public Works Committee. She says putting up markers and sending police to reduce speeds can only do so much.
This is an interim solution. Put them in, trial them. Then when the road comes up for renewal, if the trial proves to be effective, put them in permanently.
The first curbs are set to be installed on Chancellor Drive this week. Finally, the United States is pulling out of UNESCO again. The Trump administration says the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization has an anti-Israel bias, and continued involvement is not in the U.S. national interest. It comes just 2 years after the U.S. rejoined the agency after its first exit. The decision will take effect at the end of next year. And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you,
That's
Marcy.
Lauren Donnelly. Thanks for the morning in our news center today. Also, some thanks to our associate producers who worked on today's program, Sid Sundance Horshig, Marshall Hodgins, Jennifer Dasso, Chidi Akuma, our current affairs reporter in unit, it's Jim Agapito, Lauren Donnelly in our news center, as well as Alana Cole, Joni Nicolo, and Darren Bernhardt. Thanks to you and our live team, Abby Adeyemi, Brad Lillies, and Sierra Sanders, who's in with a last quick look at the morning commute.
Good morning. Just wanted to remind folks out there about the closure on Portage Avenue East. So all eastbound and westbound lanes of Portage Avenue between Main Street and Westbrook Street will be closed for water work until August 4th. There will be one eastbound lane open, but again, that is at a reduced capacity, so there will be some delays through there. So maybe try and find an alternate route if that is on your main commute in the morning. So again, that's on Portage Avenue East. All eastbound and westbound lanes are closed between Main Street to Westbrook Street until August 4th.
All right, on Noon's Call-In today, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert is canceled. That blew up the internet a couple days ago, right? Well, on today's Noon Call-In, what are your late night TV habits? Do you watch it? Do you not? Do you love it? Do you loathe it? So that's going to be a good summer conversation and right on topic. So between 12:30 and 1 on Radio Noon's Call-In. Let's have a last look at this weather here, Abby.
It's going to be a warm and unsettled day across the province. Rain in the south, smoke will linger in the northern part of the province. We're seeing 19 degrees in the southern part of the province, and we're seeing 13 up north. Most regions will get to the 20s today, and rain in the forecast should be starting around 9 a.m.
Woohoo, brother, I didn't fall asleep.
You did?
I might need a little more coffee. I had a joyous couple of weeks off, and my body wasn't getting up anymore to, getting up at 3 a.m., so I started to get worried, but we did it. One down, more to come. I'll be back again tomorrow morning, everyone. Thank you for listening. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and big thanks to Faith Fundal and Chloe Friesen, who were filling in while I was off for a few weeks. We'll talk to you again tomorrow right here on Information Radio.